I'd like to call to order the Village of Middleville Village Council meeting for January 14th. May I please have roll call?
Kevin Smith,
Here.
Robert Bishop,
Here.
Tracy Gillespie, Richard Hamilton,
Here.
John Osterbahn,
Here.
Mackenzie Peters. Here. Ann Williams. Here.
All right. I think we need to make a motion to excuse Tracy.
Support.
I was just getting comfortable, everybody. We have a motion with support. I would like to make a motion to excuse Tracy and Mackenzie. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I think this isn't scheduled, but I just think it's appropriate, given the catastrophic fires in California. I'd just like to take a couple of, just 1 minute or 30 seconds to just have a moment of silence and just send up your thoughts, your prayers, and your concerns just for the people that are suffering as a result of those fires. So I'd like to just do that for 15 seconds, 30 seconds. All right, thanks. We have approval of the agenda as written.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Support.
All right, we have a motion with support. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. We have the consent agenda.
I'll move we pass the consent agenda.
Support.
All right, motion with support. Approval of minutes for the regular council meeting of December 17th, 2024, and approval of bills for January 9th, 2025 for $894,902.22. Rhonda, could I please have a roll call?
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Tracy Gillespie, Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterbahn,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters.
Aye.
Ann Williams.
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Aye. All right, motion passes. And now we have public comment. You have 3 minutes. If you do have a comment, please make your way up to the podium, introduce yourself with where you live, and have at it. All right. There are none. There is no reserve time. Petitions and communications. Looks like Katie's here to do a fundraiser and awareness of event for Walk to End Alzheimer's.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Katie Carrier. I'm the Southwest Regional Development Manager for the Alzheimer's Association. I also live in the village of Middleville, and I am proposing to have an event June 1st to do an awareness event and a fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Association. I'm combining my top 3 things that I'm passionate about. First of all, I'm passionate about the Alzheimer's Association, how it affects the state of Michigan. There are currently 203,000 people with Alzheimer's in our state of Michigan, not to mention the thousands of unpaid caregivers. And that number is perpetually growing. I want to educate our town of Middleville on those stats. and the need for fundraising for this disease. I'm also passionate about the village of Middleville. I've lived here 9 years and love it here, love living here. And I would love to have an event that combines these things along with my third passion, which is dogs. So I want to do a fundraising event that is a family-friendly event that is in the pavilion and the amphitheater June 1st, which June is the National Alzheimer's Awareness Month and Brain Health Month. And so I would like to do Sunday afternoon, I'd like to do an event in the pavilion and do a dog show. So I'm asking for a suggested donation because it's a family-friendly event. I would like to do $10 for adults, $5 for kids. Again, if they can't pay that, I'm not going to send them away. I want this to be something that our entire community can come together for. We're going to encourage people to bring their dogs, dress them up. We're going to have a little red carpet. I am also trying to get the community involved. So I'm reaching out to Carpet Village. I've already reserved River Dog to provide the prizes for our top 3 dogs. I'm going to reach out to the Berry County Animal Shelter. I would like them to have a presence there. Again, this is a community event for the village of Middleville and surrounding areas to be educated. This is first and foremost, I'm going to have a dog show, but in between the dog show and a benefits concert, which we've got a band, the lead singer is here tonight, that they have graciously provided all of their sound equipment and their services to have a free benefits concert. But also in between these 2 events, I would like to have a presentation to educate our community on the top 10 signs of Alzheimer's, what we can look for our caregivers so they can know that there are free resources out there that are provided for the Alzheimer's Association and you don't need to pay anything. This is provided to all of us who are in Michigan. Also, signs for healthy living that can reduce your risk of Alzheimer's. And so these are the things that I'm going to be educating along with this fundraiser in between the dog show and the benefits concert in the amphitheater. And I would just love your guys' support.
I will be happy to make the motion
Could-
to.
but- I'm sorry, we need to back up just for a minute
Okay.
because Sergeant Ware did have some extra comments. Once we finalize some of these things, initially when Katie did the event permit, it wasn't really, we're doing this and this and this. And so now she has provided that flyer today. And so Sergeant Ware did have some comments on, with the dog show.
The only thing I have is I want to make sure that we're following the dog laws. So is this going to be a leash event or is this something where you're planning on like having a fenced off area? In which case I think council would have to approve special permission to go against the ordinances.
It's a great question. So I was planning on having every dog entry be leashed. And then I would have provided areas for those who are in the walk, go through the dog show and then be able to have, and I would word it too, when you want to enter for the dog show, it's going to be an email that's directly to me. Then from there, I'm going to start asking questions to those dog entries and saying, is it a dog that is good in, a crowd? There's going to be other dogs there. You're going to have them on a leash at all times. You're also going to be responsible if the dog, makes a mess, you're going to have to clean it up. So I'm going to have further questions for them when they're interested in entering, but definitely leashed at all times. Thanks.
Does the, and I need to just verify the liability insurance that would be required to be bound for this. It's a general liability
Mhm.
binder, so I'm assuming that's going to cover all of those.
Right. Yep. And I did provide that already for $1 million.
All right.
The insurance will have to be updated. It expires before the event,
Right.
but Katie and I have been in contact. So what's attached in your packet is a current insurance. If you want to, approve this conditional that we get updated insurance, so that's part of your motion, that's up to you. The other thing that we'll have to do once it gets closer to time is communicate with Alec Belson to know where you can put signs and stakes so that we don't take out any infrastructure with underground sprinkling or anything.
Yep, absolutely.
One last
Yep.
point, and I'm assuming you bound that through somebody that you're familiar with. So I would just triple check to make sure that that it's going to cover issues with dogs and things like that. I'm
Yep.
sure it does.
Yep.
But
Already checked with that.
all right,
And
good.
for the band too. It covers the entire event,
Sure.
both the dog show and the band.
Good.
So,
And you're setting the band up under the pavilion, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is the village listed as a certificate holder or is that what you?
Yes.
updated?
Yes.
Okay. And the fundraising is going to the association.
Correct. It goes directly to the Alzheimer's Association, which covers care, support, and research all here in the state of Michigan. And that's where I work. So,
Sounds like a fun event.
One other thing, Mr. President, it does end at 9. So I don't know if you want to put any qualifiers on how long music could go, just from a noise standpoint. I know you guys have done that before. So,
if I can comment before that. So I wanted to just reserve the entire day, but I'm having the event start at 2. And then we're going to have concert after the education piece, so they can take time for the sound system to move and the band can set up. And then they're probably going to perform only 60 to 90 minutes. I don't believe that it's going to go anywhere near 9 p.m. I just wanted to reserve the entire day to make sure it's all cleaned up. So
Riverbank goes till 8, right? Typically?
8:30.
8:30?
But not on a Sunday.
Oh, it's on a Sunday. That's right. All right.
All the dog is going to start howling when the band-
possibly.
Easy. Mr.
Dog
Hamilton, the
chorus.
Singers here.
Moving right along.
I'll make a motion to approve the special event permit with the condition that Katie provides an updated insurance come time for the event.
Thank you.
Support.
All right, we have a motion with support. Let's just do a roll call just to be safe.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterben,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Aye. That's cool.
Thank you for your time and support.
You bet.
And just to get this, publicized, any donation will be matched dollar for dollar by Carver up to $1,000. So,
Thank you, Mackenzie.
you're welcome.
I vote for Seamus.
Yeah.
All right. All right, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. None? I just fell asleep there for a second. I'm still waking up. All right, Mr. Stoltenberg, council and staff reports.
So you've got my report in front of you. One addition, we're looking to have our first quarterly joint meeting March 4th, which previously would have been on a MCOW Tuesday, but we're going to shoot for maybe doing something in between the DDA and the Planning Commission. Just be an hour joint meeting because the DDA will have likely some small things to take care of at 5:30, and then there are some agenda items for Planning Commission at 7. So we're looking to either have a small educational joint meeting with you, Planning Commission, and with the DDA from 6 to 7. If you can make that work, we will schedule that. If you want to just let me know if there's any objections, otherwise we'll plan on that.
Sounds good.
And then working with REPT, Mackenzie sat with them for a while. So we're going to bring that back next month. Well, not next month, next meeting, along with some options for the LED sign out at the corner. It's having some issues, and there'll be some options for you there. So, any questions on my report or anything else?
None at all.
Okay, thank you.
Can't believe spring cleanup is already being talked about. Smokes. Alec.
Good evening.
Hello.
You have my report in front of you. Just the state on the Irving Road project. I looked over very preliminary set of plans. And we're hoping to have those out for bid after we bring in front of you and LDFA. But we're thinking about early March, mid-March to get those out for bid is our goal right now. So that might be delayed a little bit. We're working on getting a reservoir inspection, just to make sure when we're doing all that work, that if there's anything that needs to be done to the reservoir at the same time, we can complete that at the same time, so.
Okay.
But right now, we're planning on doing that project, this construction year, is our goal, so.
All right.
Any questions, anything else on my report, or anything else in general?
Thank you for you and your team keeping the roads cleaned
Yeah,
during this huge array of snow.
oh,
storms
that's,
we
yeah,
went
it was a
down,
little
so-
interesting this morning. The roads were looking really good about 5 AM,
Yeah,
and then it went,
yeah,
That went
So-
downhill.
yeah,
You
but
know-
thank you.
Just as an acknowledgement of that, it's very clear when you're driving down 37, as soon as you hit the village, the roads absolutely change. I
Yeah.
mean, you can tell they're salted, they're definitely plowed well, so
Just-
it's noticeable.
just to be clear, I don't want to take too much credit. We do nothing on 37 whatsoever. So even inside the village
Even on the,
limits.
even on
okay.
the main, even on Main
Okay.
Street, I mean, the roads are just, all of them are just, they're well maintained, so.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
I'll relay it to the guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sergeant Ware. Sporting that big black color. Have you guys switched completely
Oh, yeah.
at the county?
Yeah, we have.
Alright.
They even, they're rolling out new decals on the cars coming soon. That'll be to match our uniforms, so they'll be silver instead of the old brown and gold colors. So those will be coming real soon. Real quick, numbers wise, I won't talk about December. You guys already have that, but just to look at the year as a total. If you look at that second page, we have a year-to-year comparison from last year to this year. Big highlight, our crime stats went down 28%. That's a huge number. Our non-criminal complaints went up to 23%, and our crashes went up 16%. But the non-criminal complaints, that's just because we're busier. I mean, the total complaint volume went up 8.25%. So we're busier. We're going to get busier as the town continues to grow. A small portion of that was the fact that we added that for about 8 months, we had that day spot doing every other weekend. So a couple of those numbers came from that, but that's a small portion of that 8.25%. So we are getting busier. But again, the actual criminal stuff went down significantly. So we're very proud of that. But questions?
Again, a comment, this is absolutely to those who may not understand the difference between county, township, and village. When anyone outside of the village comments on, well, there's no crime, or there's why are we doing the things that we're doing to augment, for instance, with those camera systems? You're well over 3 a day in terms of actual incidents that you deal with, and it's noticeable. You guys are always out and about, and these stats certainly back up the fact that you are busy. And again, anything that we can do from a board perspective to assist in helping make that easier. I know that you struggle with getting bodies up here that, I mean, I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't want to be up here in Middleville, but it's obvious that, you are very busy, and whatever we can do to help make that easier for you, just let us know.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I
And
have some
congratulations
specific-
on the lower criminal rate, by the way, the crime rate. That is certainly a big deal.
I
Mr.
have a
Bishop?
specific question, I guess, based on what you had said at the previous meeting last year for the new people. I would like to know what more we can do to, is there something more that we can do to entice people here? Because per what you said, and what the president said here, we pay slightly better than the areas around us. We have similar town sizes and makeups. And yet you said that they have like full police forces. So like Lowell has a full police force and Lake Odessa has a full police force. And we have absolutely nothing basically. So what's the gap? What is the gap that the county needs to do to get more people if everyone around us can hire and we can't? What's the thing that we're missing?
I'll answer that cautiously, only because I don't want to speak on the department as a whole. But ultimately it comes down to money and benefits. You
Okay,
can
so
look at Lowell PD. Lowell PD makes more money. Their officers top out make more than their deputies topped out. And they're tiny in comparison. Their benefit package is better than ours. So those are things that our agency has to work with the county to try to resolve and fix. For example, our retirement went from a B4, which was 25 and 50. So 25 years of service, 50 years old, you can retire with essentially a pension. When I got hired in 2012, I was the second person on what they call the hybrid program. So that program, when they put it in place, it bumped the retirement up to 60. The average life expectancy of an officer is 61 to 62. Doesn't really doing really good. But when I was applying, there wasn't anybody hiring full time. So young and dumb and naive, you don't think about it. You just think, hey, I got a full-time job with benefits, make more money than I ever made in my life. Absolutely, let's do this. Nowadays, the kids can choose where they want to go, make as much money as they want. So we're having a hard time drawing from Grand Rapids, Kent County, even Allegan County, even small little departments like Lowell. People that want to go work in rural areas, there's agencies that make money. Lake Odessa PD makes more money than our deputies. I could leave today, go to Kentwood PD, make more money, have less responsibility, and have a way better retirement. I don't leave because I like Berry County as a whole in the community, but that's the issue we're having. Currently, getting people into Middleville is not the issue. We fixed that. In the last year, we fixed that. So the issue now is trying to get enough bodies to where we can fill the voids that we have. And it's trying to get people to come work for Berry County.
The dotted line here is that when we do, and it is not apples to apples when we compare ourselves to Lako or Lowell, because they have their own police department, and we are lucky enough to work with Berry County to have Sergeant Ware and his deputies here. So it is it's an apples to oranges kind of scenario where the village doesn't control the environment that Sergeant Ware works in. We did, and we chose to move in this particular direction many years ago, and I think rightfully so. Just Berry County's better at doing it than we would be, for sure. And
So my question still remains then, I don't care who answers it. Are we paying good enough to attract people? Are we paying better than people around, or are we not?
It's not
it's
the
the county.
villages.
The county.
The county pays the
Yeah, we're-
deputies. We pay what the county tells us to pay. So as an entity, we don't set those benefits and we don't set those wages. That's at the county level. So we can petition the county to try to entice the benefits and the wages, but we as a board, as a Middleville board, we don't have control over that within our contract terms.
You guys have a right to have input when it comes to contract negotiations,
Yeah.
which will be starting here this year because our contract's up at the end of the year. But as far as how much say you have, unfortunately, it really isn't much. And that's where the contract between the county and the village comes into play, where it's you either agree you want to pay this or you don't, and we end the contract kind of thing. But
So then to say that we pay comparable to places around us is actually not a fully honest statement. It's a statement saying that we contract with someone that pays maybe somewhere around what should be paid. We don't have any control over that, is what you're saying.
We
So
don't,
it's not a statement of something that we're doing.
or lack of. We've agreed because of whatever reason in the past to go with a leasing option with the county, and the county sets those benefit packages and the wage packages to entice officers for work. We pay the county the wages that they earn through the county, and then the county disperses that, but they're the whole HR department essentially.
When discussing police with the public, it was said, we pay better than the surrounding areas.
No, that's not what he said.
I think we're on par generally, but there are differences in police force that are self-managed. But there's another component, there's another component to this. And it's certainly a good question. But it's not just if we were to bring law enforcement into the village, it's now we have an HR department. Now we have.
No, I understand that.
But I'm answering your question, and the question is, why are we subject to a different salary rate here
No,
versus in Lake Odessa?
that's not the question.
And are we paying on par? And the reality is that we're paying what the county has decided is a.
Mr. Bishop, when we signed our last contract, just about 5 years ago, at that time, we were in the middle to just above the middle in our comparables, closer to the top, if I remember correctly. We weren't top, but we were closer to the top. And that's how we settle our contracts with the county is we look at what our comparables are. Our comparables typically are going to be like Eaton County, Ionia County, I believe Cass County was one. It's going to be similar rural, smaller counties, not tiny like Lake County. That's the lowest paid in the whole state, but they look at comparables. What has transpired in that 5 years is you've had the end of COVID happen. You've had all these other things where all these other agencies had new contracts come up. So now when we start talking about comparables, what we're fighting for is quit looking at these counties that I'm going to have to move to go work for to have a similar or same wage and start looking at what's within the radius of where I have to travel and the other agencies. So for like me, Kent County, Lowell, Lake Odessa, those all matter to me because I can go work at any one of those, have about the same drive time and make more money. So that's what we're fighting for, this new contract. So are we making what we should be making? That's depends on who you ask. To answer the question in full, yes, the village is paying appropriately for what our contract is. And at the time when our contract was settled and the increases we get, at the time it was fine. Things have moved light years ahead since that contract was settled. And the county even came in and helped out a little bit by giving us an extra 1% 1 year, 0.5% the next, 1% the next year. So what was supposed to be our increases actually got a little bit more. So the county tried to come in and help out with what they could. Now we're looking at, well, what's going to be moving forward? What are we going to be asking for? I'm not the union person, so I don't want to step on their toes, but I can tell you we're going to fight tooth and nail to try to get something that makes it fair for us to where we can draw people in. We can make it more enticing. Or, you know what, it's going to come down to the county having to dish out money is our argument. But again, I'm kind of speaking out of turn because I'm not our union steward. We haven't even started contracts yet. I don't want that to come back to bite anybody in the butt. But that's how we work our contracts is we look at what are comparables at the time that the county agrees to be comparables, and then we try to fit in with where we should be with that. So yes, we are making what we agreed to be making, plus a little bit of money because the county helped out. So yes, the village is paying, and the village is actually getting the discounted deal because if you wanted to start the police force back up, your overhead's going to be insane.
Even with upcoming wage increases, yeah.
So big.
That's not what I was going for, but
Did we get where you wanted to go, Mr. Bishop?
yes and no. We can move on.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Sergeant Ware. I appreciate that. Good reports. Thank you for your input.
And thank you for
Thanks,
all the
guys.
hard work this past year.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Liaison reports. Who would like to start?
I will.
Okay.
We had our meeting for planning commission. We have the same officers we had last year. Jason's the chair, Amanda is the vice chair, and Wilkie is the secretary. That's it.
That was it.
It was an organization meeting.
Excellent.
Our meeting is tomorrow, but I did go to the Friends of Middleville Library last Wednesday, thinking it was the ad hoc. So, so I got to meet everybody. I don't know who exactly from there is going to be here tomorrow, but it was nice. I got a little back history on things they talked about and stuff like that, and plans that they're going to. And one of my main questions is the 3 sites. Sheridan, Pavilion, what was the other one? I can't remember.
It's on the other side of the river, but.
Yeah, the other side of the
mhm.
river, yeah. And why they chose, and they chose Sheridan mainly because if we get approved for it, it's the biggest. So if we decide to change locations for whatever reason, at least we're approved that much money. So I thought that was really smart, and they're all really nice, and I think they really they're hard workers, and they really want to get things done. So I'm excited to be on the library committee. I'm excited for tomorrow.
Excellent.
We'll go over what's new at TPRC on the agenda item under new
Excellent.
business. Yep.
All right.
LDFA is Thursday, and so is zoning board of appeals.
So question about that, so next time we talk about, it's every other Tuesday that we talk about liaison report. So I'll be reporting from previous, the month, it'll be a month away, or how do we work?
on every agenda.
Oh, is it on?
It's on
agenda?
every agenda. yeah.
Never mind, okay. Well, I will talk about it next Tuesday then, the next Tuesday.
It has been a minute since we've had a meeting.
Yeah, it has been. I don't remember it being on everyone.
All right. Any other? Okay. I guess as DDA liaison, we had exceptional meeting, as I predicted. We are definitely coming together and certainly coalescing around a common goal. And I think that we're going to continue to do that. We're certainly going to be filling some board slots this evening and having a further discussion, I think. And they have one remaining one that we'll continue to have a conversation about. But I think that I'm certainly hopeful that we're going to get that board at full strength and really start to move things forward quickly. Doug's done a phenomenal job of really just bringing things together and certainly is acting on the intent and will of the village for sure. So I think it's just really coming together nicely. And I think we've done a lot of really good work together to get there. So all of you have put in a lot of hard work on that. And I think it's going to start to pay off for sure. All right. Unfinished business, none. I think we're going to get into new business. And the Honorable Mark Nettleton presiding.
Wow. I like coming here. Good evening. Great to be back here. Trustee Osterbahn, nice to meet you. Mark Nettleton with Micah Myers. A little bit, you guys have heard this before, but proud to say I've worked with the village since I started at Micah Myers in 2002. And our firm has had a long history of representing and working with the village going back many, many decades. So I'm proud to continue that. So always nice to come down here. Happy to come down whenever I can, whenever you need me to. So for many years, I've come down, at the beginning of the year and just do a refresher in terms of the roles and responsibilities of village officers, yourselves as trustees, and the general rules that govern your activities. I've provided an outline. Candidly, I'm not going to go too close to it. I'll use it as a guide. I'm not going to hit every point. You will notice on the cover that it references the Planning Commission. In the past, I have provided a similar presentation to the Planning Commission. So I wasn't going to change it. You can provide it to the Planning Commission. It's listed on the agenda for talking about the rules of procedure, and I'll certainly touch on that. And my thought is hopefully talk about 10 minutes time if that's good for you guys. Happy to answer questions as I proceed. So feel free to interrupt. But I think for your benefit, it's always to keep in mind that you're governed by U.S. federal Constitution, the Michigan Constitution, your state law, your enabling statute, the General Law Village Act, and then there's a whole host of other statutes that the legislature has adopted over the years that give rise to your authority to do certain things. And I introduced my colleague Jonathan Trump earlier, and I kid, he's my retirement plan. So I've got to take all the knowledge in my head and get it into his head. But one of the very first statutes I told him about that he had to become familiar with was the Revenue Bond Act. Okay. And the Revenue Bond Act is a statute that authorizes municipalities like the Village to issue a particular type of debt, revenue bonds. So you would do that if you're doing improvements or expansion of your water or sewer utilities. And those type of bonds pledge for their repayment rates and charges that are imposed on the users. So let's say you're going to make improvements to the water plant. You're going to sell revenue bonds. You're only pledging for repayment of those bonds the rates and charges that you set for the customers to pay. So the village isn't exposed. Its general fund is not being pledged. You can do it, but it's not required. Why do I tell you that? Well, the Revenue Bond Act says that any of the powers that are set forth in that statute may be exercised by a municipality regardless of whether it's doing a project and regardless of whether it's issuing revenue bonds. So it's a very unique and powerful, if you will, statute that gives the village and other municipalities a great deal of authority to do things like adopt water and sewer ordinances and adopt those ordinances in a way that may not necessarily comply with other requirements of state law. So long way to get to the point of there are a lot of statutes that apply to the village and to other municipalities and set forth the rules for how you're supposed to do something. And oftentimes, the rules that are set up for a village are different than the rules set up for a township or a city. So it's important to keep that in mind. And that's kind of why I have a job, right? I'll get the question from Craig, hey, can we do this? And well, maybe not that way, but there might be another way to do it. So we've got federal Constitution, Michigan Constitution, the statutes, primarily that General Law Village Act that I mentioned, and then to fold it in here, your rules of procedure. Your rules of procedure are really intended to kind of fill in those gaps that aren't provided expressly in state law. Okay, so oftentimes when a question arises, my first response is I got to look at the General Law Village Act. I got to see if there's another statute that's applicable to answer that question. And also I'll say, well, let's take a look at the rules of procedure for how you guys say you're going to be governed. You're required under the General Law Village Act to adopt rules of procedure. And the village has been very good about taking a look at them periodically and updating them. And we did that last fall. Yeah, so. Briefly, let's talk about, I'm on page 2 of the outline, just so you know. But, what is your role as a village trustee? Obviously, you're making decisions that are presented to you that you're required to make under state or federal law. A really key thing for you to do is to listen to your constituents. Garner that input. Utilize that when you're analyzing decisions that you have to make and taking that into account when you make decisions. But you have been elected for your judgment and to exercise your judgment. And the other component of your job is to communicate and be an ambassador for the village council and the village and what you are doing and what you have done and what you plan to do. So I think those are the real key components as a trustee. And really, when you look in the General Law Village Act about your role as a trustee, there's not much. Okay. In contrast to when you look at the village president. Okay. The village president has specified duties. The village clerk has specified duties. So you guys as trustees, non-officers of the council, get to make the position what you want. But I think it's important to keep in mind that heart of listening, making informed decisions, and communicating. Okay. So the role of the village president set forth in the General Law Village Act. Chief Executive Officer of the village presides at meetings of the council and is, I like this, required to give the council information concerning the affairs of the village and recommend measures which he or she considers expedient. Okay. With the village and you know, the village having a manager and having a long history of having a manager, you get the day-to-day operation and management of the village delegated to the village manager. And of course, the manager reports to the council, but that does not obviate the roles and responsibilities of the village president as set forth in the General Law Village Act. The other aspect of setting forth kind of the responsibilities of the village and what the council is to do will be in your ordinances. Okay. And we often get a question of, well, our ordinance says that the village is going to do this. Do we have to do it? Legally, no. It's your ordinance. You don't have to follow it, but it creates a problem. If you are doing it and enforcing an ordinance in one way for one particular group or person and not in a uniform manner, that can give rise to legal liability on the part of the village. Okay. So have to be very careful. And generally, you want uniform application of your ordinances. Okay. Let's see. Our council rules of procedure also kind of set out roles and responsibilities, particularly again with the village president. And like I said, fills in some of the gap areas under state law. So as the chair, basically gets to make the decisions about who's in order, who's out of order, what the proper order of business is going to be. And in our rules, we basically have an agenda setting function of the village president along with the village manager. Okay. You're required to have a president pro tem. Are you that? Are you
I am
president pro
that.
tem? Yeah, congratulations there.
Thank you.
Okay. So you act in the place of the village president in the absence of the president. And in the absence of both the village president and the village president pro tem, the most senior member of the council serves. Okay. I'm going to skip over the planning commission. It's all boring, right, Richard?
It can be.
So I skip over to page 4 and just want to kind of talk about your role in the conduct of meetings. Again, you know, we've had in the past kind of a civility statement that was important. I think that, you know, just kind of goes without saying in terms of your matter of discourse among yourselves as well as interaction with the audience. When we talk about specific agenda items that come up, like public hearings, my general rule of thumb is that's your opportunity to present what the issue is, why you're having the public hearing, provide the public with, you know, background information. Maybe it's a presentation by the engineer or the DPW about a proposed project, and then to give the public the opportunity to provide comment. They can ask questions, but it's not required that it be a dialogue. And in fact, if you, my opinion is, if you engage in a dialogue, then things start to devolve and you can get into chaos. You kind of can lose control of your meeting. So my suggestion always is on public hearings, and it can be a little bit different for smaller communities, I recognize, but it's the public has the opportunity to provide input. They can ask their questions, and then maybe you want to have an opportunity for professionals or the consultants or somebody on staff to respond to questions that have arisen. But it really is intended to be, if you will, one-way communication, input from the public to the council so that you can make a better decision with that input. And then after you've closed the public hearing and you're now on to your decision-making, that's when you get to kind of engage and respond to say, okay, somebody raised this question. We had this response from the consultant. This is my opinion about that. And this is, I think we need to take this into consideration. And that's something then that you all can deliberate on. Well, I disagree with that point. I think really the point that has to be made is X, Y, or Z, right? That's your job. Your job is to debate. Your job is to come up with a course of action and then make a decision, okay? I guess the point too that we need to underscore with respect to debate is always go through the chair, right? The chair, by state law, by your rules of procedure, is in control of the meeting. And so it's important, again, so that the debate doesn't devolve here up on the dais there. Go through the chair, be respectful, okay? Everybody gets a turn, right? Again, the process for when you're ready to make a decision, you need to have motion, you need to have support. There should be a call for discussion on the motion, and then there should be a call for a vote. Whether you need a roll call vote or it can just be a voice vote, I think we've identified that in our rules procedure. The bottom line, you actually did it today with that permit. It's like, okay, let's call for a roll call vote. You can always do that, okay? I did put, roll call votes taken for adoption of the budget, expenditure of funds, going into closed session, that's required by state law. Ordinance and resolutions by roll call vote, okay? One of the most fascinating, I really hate them, questions that arise are conflict of interest and incompatibility of office questions. So what this means, a conflict of interest obviously is, hey, you have some sort of pecuniary interest in a decision that the council is going to make. I'm the village council. I own a snow plowing business seeking bids for snow plow service. Can I put in a bid? Can I vote on the award of that bid? The answer is no. You have a conflict of interest. So they're very fact specific. There are often times when it appears that there's a conflict, but there actually is not a conflict. I've had a circumstance in the community close to here, might resemble a village like this one, where there was a trustee who wasn't married, but their longtime partner was a village employee. And so questions of conflict arose in that circumstance. And actually, there are opinions of the Attorney General. I'll talk about that in a second. But Attorney General opinion basically said a state legislator who was voting on a contract involving a company owned by the legislator's wife was not a conflict of interest because the legislator did not have a direct pecuniary interest. The legislator did not own the company. His wife did. Right? Looks like a conflict to me. That wasn't the position of the AG's office. The small aside on the AG, we often look to opinions of the Michigan Attorney General for guidance. They are not binding on Michigan municipalities. They're only binding to the state legislature and state agencies. However, the courts often look to opinions of the Attorney General for guidance and a basis for rationale for making decisions. So they're usually instructive. And a lot of times when legal questions come to me, that's one of the things that I check. Is there an AG opinion on that? And with respect to conflicts of interest and incompatibility of office questions, the AG has a ton of opinions. So that's usually where I go, and that's usually where I come out as like, this is what the AG has said. We should consider that as binding. Okay. The takeaway about conflicts of interest is if you think you have a conflict, let us know ahead of time. They're very fact specific. We'll have to potentially ask some hard questions. But with that information, then we can give an opinion. And ultimately, if you have a conflict, you may need to abstain. But the general rule is, as an elected public official, you're expected to vote on all matters that come before the village council unless there's a conflict. I mentioned another statute, the incompatibility of office statute. What that provides is that it is incompatible, it is impermissible for an elected official to hold two positions that conflict. And they can conflict because, let's say you're a council member and on the school board, okay? That could be an incompatible office if there's supervision of one office by the other. In this case, there wouldn't be between village council and school board. Or if there's a contractual relationship between the two. So if the village has a contract with the school district that the school board votes on, that's a conflict because you're voting on two sides, right? That's an incompatible office, I should say. And there is another provision that basically says that if you hold these two offices and in order to not have an incompatibility, you need to abstain from voting in one position, then that's a per se incompatible office right there, right? Because you're not able to do your duty in both positions at the same time, okay? And incompatibility of office issues can result in a determination that you have to vacate one of those positions. So again, very fact specific, need to know the facts as soon as possible so that we can address it and determine whether there is an incompatibility of office issue. Say that 2 times. You try saying it tonight. There are several different statutes that address these issues of conflicts. And it's very interesting where there are some statutes that expressly do not apply to municipalities, but the Attorney General and therefore courts have said, yeah, I know the statute doesn't say they apply to municipalities and municipal officials, but we're going to apply these rules to municipalities and municipal officials. So we always have to keep that in mind and look at those statutes and AG opinions again. Two very important statutes for you to keep in mind as elected officials are the Open Meetings Act and the Freedom of Information Act. So the Open Meetings Act, sunshine law from the 1970s, post-Watergate era. All states have them as well as the federal government. And it is essentially to require that both deliberations and decisions by a public body, village council, planning commission, DDA, LDFA, all your kind of elected and appointed boards, have to be made at a public meeting. And that public meeting has to be noticed in a certain manner with certain information included in the notice. And you can't make decisions outside of that public meeting. And I will say, you don't want to have an Open Meetings Act violation. Why? Because if you are determined to have violated the Open Meetings Act, you have to pay the plaintiff's legal fees. Okay? And OMA litigation can be expensive because, again, it's fact specific. There are a lot of cases out there about the Open Meetings Act. And so it's very important that we do everything we can to not run afoul of it. How can you run afoul of it? With our technology, with these things, right? Text messages, emails. If you have an email where Kevin sends out, and I'll pick on you, you send out an email and say, this is what I think the village council should do with respect to the repaving of this road. And then you all respond with, I agree, I disagree. I think we should spend the money on doing this other road. You are engaging in deliberations towards making a decision. And if you haven't done it in open and had that discussion, that's a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Okay? We've had 2 recent court cases at the latter half of 2024 that have important ramifications for municipalities under the Open Meetings Act. One is a decision from the Michigan Supreme Court from earlier this summer, Pine Brook Warren LLC versus the City of Warren. And it's a case that says if you have a sub-quorum group of a public body, so we got a 7-member council, you have 3 people, 3 members of the council, and they meet and they discuss possible approaches to a problem, and they make a recommendation to the village council that, council, here, we looked at these options 1, 2, and 3, and we recommend that you do option 1, and the village council says, sounds good, all in favor, aye. All 7 of you vote in favor of that recommendation from that sub-quorum committee. That Supreme Court case says there is a violation of the Open Meetings Act because that sub-quorum committee held the meeting not in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. So sub-quorum committees that are even making recommendations to the public body, to the village council, have to comply with the Open Meetings Act. Now, the good news for the village of Middleville is that prior to the village having the committee of the whole, and you would have specific committees, an ordinance committee, public works, I think, finance, right. And they were sub-quorum committees, but the village took the position, we're posting those sub-quorum committee meetings, we're going to have an agenda, we're going to have public comment, we're going to take minutes, so that you complied with the Open Meetings Act, even though at that time it wasn't required. Now it would be required. Okay. The way around that, according to the Pine Brook Warren case, is if the village council did its own due diligence on all of the recommendations that sub-quorum committee made. So if you dug through all the information, came up with those same options and added some, that's a good, strong case for saying we didn't violate OMA with that sub-quorum group because we did our own fact-finding at this level. Well, if you're going to do the own fact-finding at this level, then don't do it. Don't have the sub-quorum undertake it, or have the sub-quorum committee comply. Okay. The other decision that just came out in mid-December with the Court of Appeals was that the Court of Appeals held that it's possible for a single individual employed by a municipality who's utilizing authority delegated by the public body to be considered him or herself as a public body when they're making that decision. So where might this come up? Let's just say you have a regulatory ordinance scheme that says the manager gets to determine who qualifies to be considered for a license or an approval that's issued by the village council. So the village manager's decision to say candidates 1 through 3 qualify, candidates 4 through 6 do not. So I'm sending on to the village candidates 1 through 3. That decision by the manager was a decision about public policy and therefore needed to comply with the Open Meetings Act. It's a significant expansion. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that kind of a situation. See, 2 council members meet with the village manager and bake out something like you're talking about. That could potentially be a conflict of interest.
It's not it wouldn't be a conflict. It
If
may
there-
be.
If there's action taken.
It may be an Open Meetings Act
Okay.
issue, particularly too,
That's-
if the council said, manager and you 2 trustees, you guys make the decision. I think this most recent case, Do you remember what that was? Okay, I'll get that name. In that most recent case from December, the Court of Appeals would say, having the manager and the two trustees make that decision that's going to be binding on the village, it's a delegation of the council's authority to those three individuals, that constituted a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Because they made a decision binding that was not made in public.
Right.
And that's a stark departure from cases in practice in the past. So,
If the manager and the two trustees met, went over some of the options, and then brought that full breadth of those, of that discussion to the council and let them make that decision.
yeah, and so I think the difference there is that if you didn't, if the delegation from council was manager, two trustees, you look into this and bring back recommendations, that's not a violation of OMA. If the delegation from the council is manager and two trustees, whatever you guys come up with, that's our decision. That's a violation.
So, if I may, so just for clarity in my brain, for example, appointments of boards. If it's a violation, if the committee that is appointed to do the interviewing and whatnot, make a decision on our behalf, that's a violation. But if they bring all the information to us and provide recommendations, that's not. Because thus we're making the decision based on their recommendations.
You might have a different issue. So I think that's correct, but that if it's a sub-quorum committee,
Mhm.
you should post that meeting
Meeting.
and conduct that meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act under that Pine Brook Warren case from the summer from the Supreme Court. So they're kind of two layers of concern from these two new cases.
Is it because of specificity? So if you box a decision in as an outcome of that subcommittee, if you will, or subquorum, and that specificity is just this is the direction or three directions or whatever, let's vote on one of them versus directional, right? So if there is conceptually, hey, we need X, we have an X outcome that we would like to deliberate upon. So if the meetings are topical rather than having specificity on an outcome, then, maybe who a vendor should be or maybe a project or whatever. Am I hearing that as long as decisions aren't boxing the council into making a yes or no vote as an outcome on boxed in options? So like their decision making was already made. They're just presenting a menu.
Yeah, so the difficulty, so you're describing kind of the case, that Pine Brook Warren case that I mentioned. And the difficulty is that you don't know you have an OMA violation until after the fact.
Until you do.
Right? Until you do. Right. And so the easy solution is if you've got a sub-quorum group, post the notice.
Yeah.
Conduct the meeting and conduct the meeting in accordance with OMA. And again, that has been the village's historic practice, and I encourage that to continue.
I'm just wondering, I
Right.
don't know, maybe an example, maybe I'm totally off the base, like Craig, you met with Mackenzie about that Rep D thing, right? The
Yeah, repped, yep.
the rep thing. What are you saying? They met, I'm sorry, and, saw the video and stuff. Should that have been an open meeting?
No,
That was gathering information.
It was an
Right.
educational meeting. It
But if-
wasn't a.
But if council said, Mackenzie and the manager, you guys attend this, and whatever you decide to do about it, that's our decision. And again, that has not been the village council's MO. The village council has, in my estimation, over 20 plus years, has guarded its authority to make the final call. Okay, it hasn't delegated that. Administratively, it might be to the manager, you go, get the bids. You make a recommendation to us on the bids, but ultimately that's, the council's decision. Again, if the delegation from the council is manager, you get the bids and you choose, that's a problem in terms of then that's going to make the manager subject to Open Meetings Act with respect to that decision. So again, the solution there is don't delegate the authority, you keep it, you make the decision.
So essentially though, good news is we're pretty well in compliance, with
Yep.
most of those things.
Yep.
We're in
So
compliance.
sorry, so.
I don't think we're pretty
we-
well. I think
We
we're-
are very in
We're over the
compliance.
top of
Yeah.
Yes,
compliant.
okay.
We post everything.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have agendas for everything and
Yeah.
minutes for
Yep.
everything. We
Yeah.
Post those.
Yeah,
But-
and educational certainly is not one of those.
And that is true. And that's exactly it. As long as, like, if I were to go to Alec and say, Alec, I need to understand why you need a new snowplow. And I need to figure out, like, why are your options these options? What differentiates the three? Because I think at the end of the day, educating ourselves to have really good discourse amongst ourselves is invaluable. And I think, that's when, if we have differing opinions, that's when we can have that discussion but somebody has to be knowledgeable about it and bring to bear facts that can help us make decisions. But I think you're right. I think it's, if three of us met with Alec and we found out that, these three brands of snowplows, this is the one that I want because it has these particular, and then our recommendation is specifically targeted to a decision that was already made without having the ability to discuss it, then I think that's really what we're going for. But
Yep.
Rhonda would never let that.
Yes.
Too quick for jail.
was exclusive capital partners LLC. versus
Royal Oak.
Royal Oak.
Yeah, right, okay. Royal Oak case, yep. I'm going over my time. Tell me if you want me to stop. But
It's up to the president.
The Open Meetings Act, the Opens Meeting Act is really important.
yes,
And it's something that I think we all have to really get comfortable with. We have to be able to also feel comfortable fact finding. So there's lines of demarcation between that, and certainly it includes discussion amongst ourselves when we're offline. But I would always encourage every council member to dive in up to and including the topics that were covered tonight. I mean, I think that there's a lot of complexity in terms of the decisions that we make. And I would hope all of us come to these meetings fully informed about what those topics are in the packet. That's why we present it. If there's questions, we can move to push it down the line. We don't ever have to make a decision the day that it's brought to the council's attention. We can always fact find and get to the right answer without violating
Yep.
the Opens Meeting Act, for sure.
and further on, 2 points on Open Meetings Act. One is more complicated, but first one that I'll make is, the right of the public to attend. You have to have at least one public comment. The village offers two. You're not required to do that. Again, that's been the village's longstanding practice. You can establish reasonable rules. I once had a client where they were having issue with a certain faction of people within the township, and they were getting right up to the council, the trustees on the township board with their video cameras, and we put reasonable rules that said, okay, you can video record. That's legal. That's permitted. But we're going to have it that here's the section where you put up the camera. So it's not in the face. So you're not obstructing the view and the interactions of the body. So you can establish reasonable rules. You've done that. 3 minutes is a reasonable rule for the length of your public comments. The other comment, though, was an intersection about, and we'll segue a little bit into the Freedom of Information Act, because that's important. But, your deliberations as a public body really, under OMA are intended to be here, right? Now, is there the occasion where, yeah, you have a side-by conversation out on the street, okay? That does happen. You have to avoid, though, kind of polling and round robining, where you're basically going, hey, how do you feel about this? Yeah, well, this is what I feel. And then you go and you talk to Dick and say, hey, how do you feel about this? And this is how I feel. And you kind of go down the whole thing so that when you get to the council meeting, the decisions, you know how it's going to go. That's not permitted. Okay. And you have to be careful. I mentioned about email and text messages. You have to be careful about that because that too can be considered deliberating towards a decision, could be basis for a violation of OMA. And somebody, if you're discussing public business that should be discussed in public and you're doing it on phones or email or a chat app, that can be subject to FOIA as a public record. And again, that's not a lawsuit we want to get into.
Yeah, you
So-
don't have control over where that's going.
Right, exactly. And who it's shared to. A little bit about social media. You have to be careful with social media posts too about discussing public business, particularly, so if you're all friends on Facebook or some of you are friends on Facebook, you don't want to be in a public chat on your pages about public business. That type of chat is reserved here. Chance meetings, you're walking your dog down the trail, you run into two other trustees. Again, best course of action, don't talk about public business there. But again, chance meetings generally aren't considered a meeting. If 4 of you wound up running into each other, at the restaurant or at the Shell, don't talk public business. That's a quorum, okay? Also, if you attended, if a majority of you attended a MML convention or seminar, that's generally not considered a violation of the Open Meetings Act. But again, the caveat, don't be discussing public business. I heard from this speaker, that's an interesting new program that the state is introducing to revitalize downtowns. We should consider that. That's a fine comment. But I don't really like that program because as the guy said, and this wouldn't fit for the village. Then you're getting into deliberation and you could potentially have an Open Meetings Act violation, okay? All right. We can go into closed session. We've done it in the past. Again, the general rule is all decisions and deliberations are to be in the open at a public meeting. But the Open Meetings Act does recognize several exceptions to that rule where you can go in closed session to get information or even deliberate about certain things. So for like the village and townships and counties, generally they're permissible 6 purposes that are applicable to the village council. By the way, I'm on the bottom of page 9. Personnel evaluation or disciplinary action, but only if the employee requests the closed session, okay? So you can't go into closed session if the employee hasn't requested the closed session, okay? And if you're in closed session to discuss this periodic evaluation or this disciplinary action with the employee and the employee says, I've had enough, I don't want to do this anymore, you immediately have to come out of closed session and return to open session. Collective bargaining for your negotiation strategy, that's a permissible purpose for a closed session. Purchase of real property, but not the sale of real property. Okay, so if you're thinking about purchasing property, it's okay to go into closed session to deliberate about what a purchase price would be. If you're trying to sell property, not appropriate to go into closed session that way. Litigation strategy, to discuss specific pending litigation. So if you think you're going to be sued, we can't go into closed session under that exception of the Open Meetings Act. However, you can ask me for a legal opinion about the potential liability of the village if you are sued, and we can utilize an attorney-client privilege exemption under the statute to go into closed session and discuss that. With respect to that, so the exemption really is under Open Meetings Act that you can go in closed session to discuss material which is exempt from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. Under the Freedom of Information Act, an attorney-client communication, a letter from me to the council about a legal issue and providing legal advice is exempt from disclosure under FOIA. So we use those two statutes, layer them together as a basis to go into closed session so that I can provide legal advice and you can ask me questions to understand that legal advice and understand what your legal options are. Okay. And so we do that from time to time. And with that attorney-client privilege communication, essentially any issue that arises where I'm providing legal advice can serve as a basis for us to go to closed session. Okay. Let's see. I think that's what I want to cover. Happy to answer any questions.
It was very thorough.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure to come on down. So, she's got the magic.
Yeah, she's got the magic card.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Nels. Your was informative as always. Going on to TAPRC Recreation Plan update.
All right, so this would be a very good time for deliberation. End of 2025 ends the current rec plan that we have. So the village benefits from having a TAPRC board that can have a rec plan because having a rec plan allows us to be RRC certified, which gives us access to various grants. And I'm sure a lot of other things. It's the redevelopment ready certification, right? Okay. So the TAPRC board would like to get a consensus from all the entity boards, which is the township school board, the township board, and this village to see if we are willing to continue the partnership as a board. And then the second item would then be voting on approving a proposal from Williams and Works to begin the process of going through our rec plan and renewing it, as well as throughout the year getting entity input on what they want to see in this rec plan. The fiscal impact for that would be $5,000 per entity because the board recommends the full quote. There was a couple variations of I call it a la carte choices that we could have chosen from, but it's the recommendation of the TAPRC board to go full boat for the full 15,000 proposal, and thus making our portion 5,000. Now, you may also be asking yourself,
What if we don't do this?
right? Exactly. So we could, because the TAPRC board no longer is facilitating a youth programming that's gone to the schools, Middleville youth programming program, so we're no longer doing T-ball and things like that. We would become a committee that utilizes Williams and Works and contractors to help steer for capital improvement plans, and we're hoping to continue to engage a three-way partnership because it offsets the cost instead of the village having full boat paying for capital improvement plans or programming and things like that. They can help us identify grants and things like that. So the board itself be a for lack of a better term, a steering committee in that respect. But to your question, if we elected not to go into the partnership this coming year, then we would obviously dissolve that board. Because if 2 out of the 3 want to continue on and not the third, then it really does dissolve that board. If we wanted to continue on, but we wanted to get a lesser option because if we want to move on, we have to do a rec plan. We have various options, but again, it's in the packet. With the Williams and Works proposal was in the packet for y'all to read through. There's community engagements and pop-up options, things like that. But again, the board's recommendation is to go full boat because we're all very enthusiastic about improvement along the village. And then if the other option would be to not move forward and not do rec plan, well, then we'd have to look at how we can maintain our RRC certification. If we want to move on without a RRC certification, what that would look like. So it's a little bit of a domino effect. But we can certainly not continue on with the board and develop our own rec plan, but then that whole expense is on us. So.
Do we
those are the
know where
options.
the township and the school board stand?
The school board yesterday did a couple different things, mainly finalized their appointments, but they agreed to proceed forward with the partnership. The township, I'm not sure when their next meeting is, but
They met last night.
They
and
met.
They'll meet, next month as well.
Did they make a decision?
I
on
don't know.
this?
I did not hear one way or the other.
Right. So I can message Eric, but we have our TAPRC meeting the fourth Wednesday because we switched those meetings up a little bit. But the fourth Wednesday of the month is when we'll all convene to see where we're at. We'll either dissolve the entity or continue forward with election of officers and with Williams and Works and things like that.
Is there any ideas on what they want to do?
So there's a plethora. Yes. So the biggest thing is the capital improvement. We have a whole landmass, Sheridan Park. What are we going to do with that? They're very interested in the development of the library and seeing what comes of that. Programming is a huge thing. So now that we're not doing youth baseball, we're looking at some holistic programming for all ages. So maybe we get programming in that way. But the biggest thing in the capacity our board currently is in, it would simply be supervisory or policy setting, because we don't have, the TAPRC does not have their own staff. So we'd be utilizing things like Williams and Works, or, looking to partner with the village and seeing what direction we can move in. And all those things will certainly be sorted in the rec plan, because our last meeting, we all said it's great to have ideas, but we also need to set rungs for the ladder to get to those goals. So that's a big portion of what the rec plan will provide us, as well as those goals. We certainly are looking for village input on what we want to see goals. I know parks are a big thing. Providing teenage and adult recreation is a big thing. So not just for kids as well. I mean, we want to still maintain recreation and things like that. But it's the focus right now is to see where we want to go as a board. And if we do go forward, let's get the rec plan, and we'll have all year to have joint sessions to kind of collaborate on what we want to see.
A couple of comments. I don't think we're gonna, two things.
Yes.
One, I want to be an equal share between the township. I think historically, and I'm speaking from memory here, so I may not be accurate, but I remember going through this process before, and the township contributed like $500 or something like that. Was it the same? Were we on equal ground?
Everyone has to be equal.
Does it?
We all
Okay.
have to determine to do the same
Well,
thing.
then I'm thinking of something else, which
Mr. President,
wouldn't shock me. Yes, sir.
I think that we ought to go as a partnership. If we don't have all the conduits that it takes to do everything that Mackenzie talked about, if you start from scratch, it's going to cost a lot more than that, I'm sure, or you do nothing.
What is the plan to that point? What is the plan for like the athletic complex? I mean, like there was a lot of money spent on putting that as part of like a capital improvement project. Does that carry forward, and are we still keeping that in the?
That is something we've all had throughout even this past year, of things we want to achieve. It's at the heart of a couple of those members that have been on that board for a while, that saw that process through and then saw it, sit on the back burner. But we certainly, I think as a board, we have a very collaborative mindset with each other, and certainly we're hoping for continuity of representation across the entities, so we can look at those projects and hopefully see them through to fruition. But right now, the main focus is, all right, we've got an opportunity to, and I think we've got the right group to be able to say, we've got an opportunity to look at our rec plan, make a plan that works for the village of Middleville, the township, and the school, and then from there, make the small goals to get there. And the Williams and Works will certainly bring in to account community feedback as well. So, we're going to get a lot of that through this process and through this proposal.
It's refreshing, basically, what's already there, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's, because I know that was done a number of years ago. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, certainly it's good use of time
Right.
and resources if the outcome doesn't hit a brick wall and die on a vine
Yeah.
due to lack of participation from any one of the entities that are involved, right? So as long as, I guess, and this is really my only concern, is that whatever the priorities end up being, that we're always in lockstep with
Yep.
what that looks like collectively and have really open conversation about it, because there were some really great action items that the TAPRC had,
Yeah.
and they just kind of fizzled just because there just wasn't consensus. So like, I guess
And
it's always a good exercise to find out what the public wants.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that we fall, the reputation is that we fall short on hearing the public. And so anytime we can engage like this is always beneficial. So I'm for it, but I don't know. I guess I just want to make sure that we have consensus amongst everybody.
So just let me remind you of your strategic planning exercise that we completed last year.
Yes.
Parks and Rec did come pretty high up on the list, and we had members from the school board and from the township at those strategic planning meetings. So I would be
And this
surprised.
vision will be executed through that TAPRC group today.
Sure.
Okay.
And so I think the main goal is, for, taking it baby step at a time, is, do we have a consensus to move forward with a joint partnership? Then do we have agreement to partner in this renewed rec plan, and allowing the meetings to establish our goals and priorities? Certainly we would like whatever we got to do to move forward collaboratively. We have staff that can help us see Sheridan Park to fruition if that's the goals of the boards and everything else. So I'm really feeling confident about this group of folks that we have on the board and who we have here as staff and as a board too. So
Mr. Hamilton?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to put this up for a vote to TAPRC Recreation Plan Update approval as proposed, as presented, excuse me.
support.
We have a motion with support. Any further discussion before we take a vote?
I like to discuss exactly what we're voting on here.
To
I
agree to continue our three-way partnership with the township and school district for the operation of Thornapple Area Parks and Recreation Commission, and agree to split the cost of the Williams and Works quote for the renewal of a rec plan.
I have one question. Do we have to vote to continue the partnership? That can just be a general consensus. I don't think we have, because,
But there's money involved.
Just,
well, the money is only involved in doing the rec plan.
Okay.
So I
We
would
already have a
I would say-
partnership.
yeah, I would say you just need a motion to agree to spend up to $5,000.
Yeah.
And continuing the partnership.
We don't have to vote on continued partnership because we already have an agreement in place. So we would have to agree to not have that partnership.
All right.
We
So-
don't have to re-agree.
I guess at the time when, not to exceed $5,000 in this partnership.
So, yeah, what it is for
So
the
it's a
rec
matter of
plan.
record.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not for the partnership, it's to spend the money on the update of the rec plan.
Well, then I guess we should
Are we okay?
rewrite the recommendation then. So the recommendation is that we continue our partnership, and in doing so, not to exceed $5,000.
That's my motion.
Contribute up
Thank
to
you, Mr.
$5,000
Very
towards the
well said.
update of the rec plan.
Yes.
I got you, Kevin.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you do.
No, no, no. We're good.
Thank goodness someone does.
We're good.
Especially at this point.
We did a 360.
All right, well, we have a
Still
motion with support and we've refined that motion
So
ad nauseum at this stage, so,
the total of that is 15,000 is,
It's 15,000, it'd be a 1/3 split.
Yeah.
So village
got it,
responsibility is 5,000.
got it, thank you.
so we might as well do a roll call.
I have one question for Mr. Nettleton while he's
Sure,
sitting
of
here.
course. He's here.
If the other entities don't agree to do this rec plan, what happens to our motion?
Well, the limitation is, not to exceed 5,000,
Okay,
right? So
okay.
if you have one or both of the other partners not do it, the village isn't doing it.
Well, we
Okay.
just have to,
Okay.
we have to iterate that we agree to split the cost
Yeah,
of the Williams and Works quote for
Right.
the renewal of.
Yes.
not to exceed the
Of the rec
Of the rec
5,000.
plan. Yeah.
Not to
right.
exceed the 5,000. Okay. Fair enough. You said to vote yes?
I
Okay.
said we have to definitely do.
A roll call.
Roll call.
Yes, we do. Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterbon,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Ian Williams,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Aye.
Might have fallen asleep there. We're not
Yeah,
sure.
I know.
Just had to think through.
After I said I had it, yeah. mhm.
Okay. Can we put that to bed?
Yes.
We're good?
Yes.
All right, good. All right, well, so I'm bringing this up for discussion. I don't know if we necessarily have to, we really do at some point have to vote on this, but.
Should probably do it today.
What I'd like to do, given the fact that we are spending a lot of time, effort, and energy on Main Street Initiative, and that we're talking about beautification, and I know
Committee
that
assignments?
Mr. Bishop and several of
Excuse
us
me,
had
Mr.
gone
President.
to Lowell and had really reveled in the,
I think you skipped something.
what? Did I have it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
the roll call.
No,
Committee
we did the roll
assignments.
call.
Committee
You
assignments.
skipped committee assignments, I believe.
yes.
Oh, I did, because I'm just
Yeah.
hyper about this.
Yeah,
Okay,
well-
well then let's go back to committee
Thank
assignments.
That's
you.
what I think you should
Thank
vote
you.
on.
I appreciate you. But do we have to vote or does he just make appointments?
The council has to.
Does
Man, this is a hot mess tonight. Thanks, YouTube land. All right, well, we do have, I'm just gonna go through this list. Right now, we have on the planning commission, Mr. Hamilton, would you like to continue that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
I am now on the DDA as an appointed position,
LDFA too.
same with LDFA. Mr. Bishop, would you like to join me on that?
He's down there.
I'm sorry.
You are sleepy.
I do, bro. It's like 25 hours. Okay, so you'll continue the LDFA, which has further discussion of that. On the zoning board of appeals, ironically, Mr. Baldry is filling the position that he left vacant, but we do need a liaison. And that meets like once in a blue moon when,
Thursday.
Per meeting schedule, it's twice a year, but if there's a petition, you meet otherwise from that. There is a meeting this Thursday at 6 PM.
yes, of which I think I am
You're not on
not
that.
on there.
No, you're at LDFA at
Oh, that's
5.
right. Okay,
ZBA is at 6.
thank you.
And will be a short, sweet meeting because the only thing on the agenda is election of officers.
It was my, before Mr. Baldry, it was my favorite committee to be on because again, it only met a couple of times a year. So it's easy peasy, nice and easy if you would like to throw your name in the hat for that. Or I will just appoint you.
I don't mind.
Okay,
I
Mr.
would
Bishop,
as well.
would you like to?
Yeah.
Mr. Bishop? I mean, you're already with me enough, so. All right. We'll put John on there.
John on there? Okay.
TAPRC, I think Ms. Peters
I'd love to stay on.
certainly
Possible.
did that. Wellhead protection, again, it's pretty rare. That's a pretty rare,
Met once in 2 years.
yeah. I love that committee.
It hasn't met
And
since
I'm
I've
already
been here.
automatically on it, so.
I'll take it.
Mr. Bishop.
I don't even know what it is. I've seen the signs on the side of the road, but that's the extent of it.
Alec, would you like to explain it?
Yeah, so the wellhead protection is essentially, it's a group that we have to protect our groundwater drinking. And we have met, the ones 2 years ago, we were actively meeting once a quarter to pursue grants from the state of Michigan. We can get, and the grants that we get from the state are educational based grants. So if we have business to where we can figure out how to better educate the public, how to protect our groundwater, then we can apply for those grants and then we can get those grants. But those grants are only for educational based. So the signs that were put up, we did some school projects because there is a school, I can't remember his name, but there was a science teacher from middle school that was on it. A member of Wilmington
Mr.
Works.
Davis.
Mr. Davis, yep.
Yep.
And we haven't had any projects that came up that where we could find ways to better educate the public to protect our groundwater source. And that's why we haven't met in the last couple of years. We applied for one grant previously. We applied and had several grants over the last couple decades, or decade at least. But the last time we applied for a grant, I was denied because it did not fit the criteria. Can't remember what that was off the top of my head. But if we like president or manager sees fit, we can have the committee meet and just at least touch base.
There are no
Then you can-
scheduled meetings. It
Yes.
meets as needed, so there's
Meets
nothing.
as needed.
Yeah, there's nothing on our meeting schedule.
All right.
I'm willing to do it.
I feel good.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. I mean, I don't have a choice, but great. Police contract, so we had that ultimately is when contract renewals come through, we discuss the finer points of our agreement with Berry County. I've been on that since I've been on the council, so it probably personally, it's one of the most productive committees, I think, because there's always great action items out of it. So,
I'd like to stay for continuity
all right,
with upcoming renewal.
there's a slot. So whoever would like to join,
It's 3-member group.
I guess I'll do that.
do you want to do it? All right, Mr. Bishop, I do want to give you the opportunity. Okay. So John's on that. Only because I think your conversation is productive. That's-
And we'll probably convene sometime in the spring or early summer to go over where we're at and,
Sure.
don't need to renew again right now, but just to,
The ORV ordinance is over,
We don't even need that
We don't
anymore, I was
need
gonna
that
say,
any
do we?
longer.
No.
so we can eliminate that. Library,
Yes.
And I'd like to stay on as well.
Mr. Kramer was on that in the
Yes.
past. How often does that mean?
Once a month.
Once a month.
Third Wednesday.
you got 2 members currently serving, you can continue.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. I'm probably going to drop in on a couple,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly going to drop in. I have a few things I'd like to discuss with them, but for sure, the 2 of you can continue to do that. And parking enforcement, which I think that's a moot point
I
now
don't think
as well.
we- I
Is
was
it,
gonna say, I don't
or
know
did
if
we
we need
not
that
vote on
one.
that?
It's still being,
It's being dealt with.
Yeah.
All right.
But does it need a committee or not?
no,
No, okay.
we're working through the county.
All right. I think they're-
Updating
Our ordinances.
well, not our ordinances, but our,
The ability to find.
yes.
That's that was all lumped into
Yes.
the ORV thing
Yes.
too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Then we can ixnay that until further notice. I do believe that we should still have a conversation openly about it though,
Yes.
because I don't want,
Yep. We're
Decisions
working
being
through
made.
that, yep.
all right, well, are we getting rid of that? then?
I did.
All right, well, then I did too. Then you can rest assured I got rid of it. So I think did you get all the notes on that?
So you have, your motion's going to be, that you set them up as planning commission is Mr. Hamilton, DDA is Mr. Smith, LDFA is Mr. Smith and Mr. Bishop, ZBA is Mr. Osterbon, TAPRC is Ms. Peters, Wellhead Protection is Mr. Smith and Mr. Bishop, Police Contract is Mr. Smith, Mr. Osterbon, and Ms. Peters, and Library is Ms. Peters and Ms. Williams.
Should we add, since Tracy was assigned to that garbage commission?
That's not our committee.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's
Her
your,
opportunity to.
That is your
Be
motion.
voluntold to do something.
well, she already put her on solid waste
Yeah.
oversight, or whatever they call it.
If you want to add her to something else, you can.
I think we're fine. We've got it squared, right? I mean, I think we've got good representation right now. All right, very good. So I would like to make a motion to approve the committee appointments for 2025.
Or
Any further discussion about them? All right, well, I would like to do a roll call, please.
Oh, goodness gracious. Hang on. Man, you're killing me.
I am.
John Osterbon,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
I,
Kevin Smith.
Aye. Okay. Can I talk about the downtown snow removal?
Yes, you
real
can.
Absolutely.
You go.
quick? So, over the course of our involvement with Main Streets and looking at how a lot of those municipalities have participated in beautification and services and things like that. One of the interesting things about our downtown area is that a lot of what we do is to drive traffic to our downtown area and generate a feeling that we are really attentive to making it walkable, making it enjoyable and accessible. I have pulled every single business that's in the downtown area, and obviously, snow removal is complicated. I think it deserves a conversation about what the sentiment is on this board and how we can look at that as a benefit to the tax-paying public to come downtown and to remind everybody that the people that own these buildings downtown pay a lot of money in taxes annually. And I am not knocking what our DPW does. As stated earlier, I think that they do a phenomenal job in maintaining our village. When there's 5 inches of snow, if you've ever been down here, I personally snow blow the downtown area because I want that walkability, and I do that as a friendly neighbor for everybody. But I would love to get the sentiment of this board and have a discussion as to how this fits into our long-term plans and as we continue to build consensus on how we want to take care of our downtown. Mr. Hamilton.
yeah, I was glad to see this on the agenda. I do a lot of driving around between here and around Berry County. I see a lot of smaller communities that they have the equipment and they use it to clean the sidewalks off the downtown. We don't do that, right? That's why that's on here.
We do not.
Yeah. Well,
You might go up there.
some of those communities actually do the sidewalks all over town. And quite frankly, I'd love to see us do that if we have the ability financially, equipment-wise to do it. And the people to do it. That would be a direct benefit to people who look out the window and say, yeah, my tax dollars are doing something for me.
Sure.
So anything that we can do for downtown and or the greater village, I'd love to see it.
Alec.
I'm just here to answer any questions that may come up, or when I'm called upon, I'd gladly comment. Craig just has me step up, so.
I think, and I've also witnessed, I mean, we worked on getting that ORV or whatever that you
Mhm.
want to call it. I mean, we've got really great equipment. And I certainly think since we're already doing the township, in front of the township, we're also doing in front of City Hall. We also do down around the pavilion, and there's a lot of other areas that we're already working on. There is a short, and I'm calling it short, but it seems like we could define what that looks like if DPW were to take that and just leave the brush down instead of doing a 64-point turn and turning back around and doing in front of Village Hall. They just go straight up the hill
Right.
and then come straight down the hill.
And then there's the businesses that don't have people in it.
Right.
Like the old Vintage Haven that doesn't get done.
Which concerns me as we have property that's open right now. And again, I think it makes it more welcoming and certainly just, it doesn't appear to be abandoned.
Yeah.
So, again, conversation, please.
I'm open to it, but mainly based on Alex's view on availability of staff and time and what he would need to do as a department head to achieve that, and resources he may need to get that done. As far as the greater village is concerned, I'm not as inclined to suggest DPW manages all sidewalks in the village just because that's a lot of sidewalks. Also making sure that they're cleared in an appropriate manner, especially these last few days have showed us how difficult that can be. So we do have ordinances, I believe, within the village that state the property owners are required to shovel their own sidewalks in front of their houses. So that kind of takes care of the greater wide. But I'd entertain certainly just strip downtown and seeing what that would look like for Alec, but I'm more inclined to go with what their recommendation is. That would be my 2 cents.
On me? So, you're right, Mackenzie. We do have ordinance in place that requires, all business owners, property owners, tenants, homeowners, and residents to clear their street-facing sidewalk within 48 hours of snowfall. Currently, we only maintain village-owned property sidewalks, so only sidewalks in front of village-owned property. We do not mean anything else. And then we also plow the section of trail from here to Crane Road to the north. Right now, I have one guy, we're maintaining about 3 miles of sidewalk. That's about 5.5 to 6 hours on a average snow event. Estimating right now, talking with my guys, probably if we were to do that downtown, average snow event, probably 45 minutes to an hour extra. Because just dropping the brush, but then we going in and out of the trees and doing all that. So it's doable. Kevin and I, 2 years ago, had this conversation. And I flat out said, I am not against it. That is council's decision to make. I will gladly do whatever you choose to do. Just a couple things that I brought up to him is, if we're gonna do downtown businesses, where would you like me to stop snow plowing? Because at some point we gotta say, we're going this far and we're not going any farther. What businesses do you want to be plowed? What businesses do you not want to be plowed? Same thing with the residents. Is council concerned if we start doing the businesses and the residents that have to do their own, are they gonna be concerned about having to do their own while we're helping businesses out? Again, I'm just trying to lay facts out, not. As far as doing village-wide, yes, it's doable, but I'm gonna have to buy another machine, if not 2, plus employ 1 or 2 more workers during the winter. I have about the village has about 19 miles of streets, so that's roughly about 35 miles of sidewalk to do. If it's taking me 6 hours to clear 3 miles of sidewalk, I mean, it's probably 10 to 15 hours, or no, probably about 13 to 20 hours of clearing, just to clear those sidewalks of man hours. So pretty costly. Back in 2012, council did consider doing this once. The DPW director at the time got a contract village-wide, not downtown, excuse me, to do just those streets at that time. That contract was about $60,000 for all village sidewalk. And that was 2012 minus all the development we have now. Downtown concern, what I would like to hear from council, if you do guide me to do that, is how often you'd like that done. Prime example, Sunday mornings, we're coming in, we're gonna do our plowing that we have to, because we're paying our employees double time to come in to plow. So we're plowing all the streets we need to plow, maybe a couple major parking lots, and doing like a strip in front of the village hall, and that's it. Are we, should we be doing all the businesses during the weekends? If we plow in the morning, we get snow midday, and River Dog and Champs are open to midnight. Is council expecting staff to come back and maintain those sidewalks? Salting, we currently salt our immediate downtown sidewalks that village owned. Would we want to be salting all that? Would that be business owner responsibilities? So various different answers I would like from you all of how you'd like to proceed if we choose to proceed.
Mr. President,
Yes.
it also creates potential for legal liability. While the village, like any municipality, does have governmental immunity, and generally from tort liability, so slip and fall sidewalk cases, it is not 100% immunity. If the municipality is grossly negligent in the activity that it's taken on, it can be held liable. And so one of the considerations is, well, who owns the sidewalk? If it's private property, and it's just subject to a public right-of-way, you're creating an issue because you're taking on an obligation. And if you do it in a grossly negligent manner, and somebody's injured, you can be held liable. So there's that consideration. There's also, you would need to talk, the village would have to talk to its insurer to see what that would potentially do to insurance requirements.
So I guess just
I'm just going
For
to make a really fast comment
Yep.
on this, and I will say this. I agree that whoever's shoveling the sidewalk is potentially open for liability. Now, clearly, if you have a homeowner's insurance policy and you have general liability, that's covered. Some may have that, some may not. Depends on the resident. But I will say this, our ordinance, which I only loosely agree with, puts the onus on a public through right away on the onus of the property owner, even though it's private property, but it's also subject to ordinance enforcement when you park over it in your own driveway. So I think we are talking dramatically about a double-edged sword here, in the sense that we enforce those sidewalks as if that we are making our residents do something on that public right-of-way. And so I only bring this up because when we start talking about liability, there's already liability. And when you are in the downtown area, and this is why I suggested only to fence it into a specific area in the downtown area. And I would certainly be open to having conversations about how we put bumpers on that. But I think I would say all of these businesses have general liability already on it. It's almost a requirement, which it's a safer bet that still would fall, and we would put the onus on them to salt and do things to maintain throughout. I'm suggesting that when there's 12 inches of snow and they're already doing the sidewalk for 30 yards to continue in a specific area, where we want to encourage and promote business and support them. Now, we pay money into a DDA that can certainly offset some of that. And I think that there are opportunities for us to frame this in a way that we are aiding a particular district that we have tried very hard to continue to beautify and draw people to the downtown area. So I think that while I am very much a fan of the liability scenario, I would also say it's easy for us to, I think, to sidestep some of that by simply putting bumpers in and still putting the onus on business owners. I mean, look, you don't want people to slip and fall while they're in front of your business. So having parameters in this would be certainly part of the job of the board. I just think that when we don't have this conversation, we have empty buildings currently that are going to remain empty because of poor planning or whatever. And I think what we end up with is a lot of snow in areas where it's going to look like it's a piecemeal scenario where some people are participating in that ordinance and some people are not. And I think as we continue to press very hard on improving the image of this village, but also showing value. And I think that we've had residents sitting in this room that have stated, I would just like to see where my money is being spent. That question gets asked all the time. And this is like one of the most obvious ways to do that, especially for the business owners that are operating down here. And it's within a close proximity of something that they're already doing. So
I'd add, if we're at the bare minimum, I'd run up all the way to Main Street for the kids that are walking to school. That used to be done by Bill Kenyon. 2 doors down from me. The school used to do it when I was on the school board. So keep the kids out of the streets. So I'm a proponent of doing whatever we can, as much as we can.
I have
Thank you.
I have a question, probably for Mark, that can help answer. When we had our discussion earlier and in our responsibility of enforcing ordinances and making sure that we're enforcing them appropriately and equally to all property owners, what kind of trouble would this get us in if we assumed obligation or responsibility of a set number of sidewalks as opposed to not the rest of the village? What do you think that would?
I think there's a potential for an issue. And again, kind of, one of the things you asked me to do, right, is to worry. And another thing is to solve, right? Help solve. So, my prior comments are a worry and a recommendation in terms of to check with the insurer what that does potentially to your coverage at all. Anytime I've had a client who's asked about this, the ultimate answer or the ultimate decision that they make is, okay, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do sidewalk clearing because of the potential liability and because of the time it takes, the cost, and things like that. So I can't sit here right this second and tell you it wouldn't be a problem. I think that there would probably be a way that you could carve it out to say we're doing it in the downtown area. But I'd have to think about that a little bit more.
Like in the event of inactivating a social district, so say our social district goes
or
from.
business district.
Yeah.
Or
that
heavy
goes from this
traffic.
to this, yeah.
Districts.
Yeah, I think that there might be a way to do that so that you wouldn't necessarily disturb your existing ordinance. But it's something we'd have to consider it.
So my thoughts are, if we were to establish a business district from, say, St. James Circle here to High Street, or even to the point past the township, I'm not saying we do township sidewalks. I'm okay for the sake of okay, we're gonna be responsible for the sidewalks of a business district or a social district, as long as it doesn't, cause a need for hours plus hours, but I'd like to be able to see and do things appropriately, so we're not in a legal mess of being discriminatory of who we're enforcing ordinances for and who we're not. And so that we're not putting so much of a burden on our DPW department, where we're needing to add man hours. 45 minutes to an hour doesn't seem so detrimental. I think we can afford that, but I'd like to be able to see how we can navigate that, but that's my opinion.
Any further discussion?
I guess though, I would just clarify for Mark, as you had said something about us maintaining privately owned sidewalks. These sidewalks are within our right of way, and they are,
Right, but it's
So-
still,
so it's different. Okay, that's why I just want to clarify that, because they're maintained physically. The structure of the sidewalk, the integrity of the sidewalk is maintained by the village. It's just the removal of the snow is.
Right.
That makes
Day-to-day
sense.
maintenance.
right, but it may be that the property line for the properties extends
Okay,
so that the sidewalk is technically on their property,
gotcha.
notwithstanding the easement that is held for the benefit of the public for
Makes sense.
use of the sidewalk.
Gotcha.
I guess
Just
my
as
only
Mr.
comment would be in enforcement of the ordinances, I walk every morning, basically the block
Mhm.
from Russell Street around by the business and up around and come this way. There's public or residents that probably never done their driveway. Up that way, hardly ever I see people plow. I mean, so who's enforcing that? I mean,
Cool.
or how we enforcing it, or
So the code enforcement should be, that's something they look into every winter. I can't answer how they do it or the manner.
And
Bob was out there this morning, looking at stuff. It's 48 hours after the snow event, so it's kind of like,
Tomorrow it'll be a problem.
what's that?
It'll be a problem tomorrow.
As long as it doesn't snow tomorrow. That's where it gets to be hard, because if you get snow today, 36 hours later, you get another snow, well, that clock restarts. So that's where
And
people find the loopholes in that.
And it's hard for Bob to be everywhere at one time. We
Right.
only have one code enforcement officer, so I always recommend if you see something that's detrimental, say something, and especially in a timely manner, so that way it can be addressed timely. Because we can't address things a week later, unfortunately, I've learned.
Mr. President, speaking to your liability, I think the city of Holland has their downtown area heated segment, but they don't have it all over the city.
Right, it's just in a
Kalamazoo
specific
has
area.
that same thing. Do they get lawsuits because my house out here in the hinterlands isn't heated on the sidewalk? I mean, I like your discussion that you carried out. There's no greater visible sign that you're doing something for the resident for his taxes, which, by the way, we're the highest in Berry County, 64 mills.
What?
Yes, I got a chart. I'll supply everybody with it. The people who are griping about what they're getting or not getting, this is kind of off the track, but there's no better visible use of tax dollars than to show people what you're actually doing for them. And it's only in the winter. And if we need to put more people on it, have a few more pieces of equipment and manage the timing of it, people are not gonna sue somebody because you didn't get out there 2 hours ago.
I think it is definitely worth a conversation. I think what I would like to do, I think as next steps is I'd like to frame and for further discussion, I'd like to frame what does that look like in our downtown area and what would be a safe haven for our village to say if there's a business association or something that where we can potentially work through the DDA with a particular district or something where we can define lines appropriately. I think there's bumpers with regard to how often it gets done. Maybe it's done just once, just to get the ball rolling. And then if they have to salt it or whatever, I think there's ways that we can be creative. I want to respect Mark's worries and
Yep.
certainly have that discussion as well. So I'm going to throw this on the table. It's going to come up again, probably regularly, but I would like very much, if at bare minimum, maybe what we do agree is that if we do need to engage with Mark at some juncture, maybe we should agree that we're going to spend some resources on at least getting some opinions. And I think with that, maybe this is a formal request on our next meeting.
I can work with Mr. Nettleton and with Alec, and we can bring some options to maybe even first to DDA, if this council is in agreement that you want us to move forward in that manner. And then, kind of go from there. So,
Yeah.
The DDA
As-
definitely
as far
has
as-
money to
As far as,
spend,
how much money it could cost and stuff like that.
for sure.
I'll just say this, if I may. It'd be interesting to see this done in conjunction with establishment of a business or social district. I mean, that'd be kind of neat to do one swoop, and then we can set in that parameter of a district that we maintain those sidewalks. I mean, why not double do and just do it all at once?
Yeah.
If we can. I don't know what that would look like, but just thought.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, go ahead.
I'll say this last thing on this note, I will gladly do whatever, if I serve at the pleasure of the council. Just as long as you guys keep in mind of man hours and finances that may need to be available to spend on whatever said venture we go down.
Right.
So that's all I ask, is just to keep that in mind. So if we're trying to do 40 hours worth of stuff in 24 hours, things might fall by the wayside. So that's
Meanwhile,
all.
I'll continue to volunteer.
I'm not saying particular downtown. I'm just saying as a whole, if we're starting to look at
Yeah. no,
plowing more than just the downtown, if we look at extending to school routes, to all of Main Street, to the whole town, just let council know
Yep.
that. So,
Nothing runs by itself.
That's right.
thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Alec. I appreciate that input. Man, we are going way long tonight. DDA appointments. So, I had that list.
It's on the screen.
It's right there.
Oh, yeah, it's on the screen too. All right. So I think also this will get us nearly to a full course. I'm just gonna. I was presented the process, and I want to iterate the process just so that it's out there. The DDA had discussions. They had applicants, they discussed the applicants, and then they forward the folks that they wish to present as candidates. And then it is certainly my duty to appoint them. So on their recommendation and consideration, I will make I'm going to read them, and then I will make a motion and have it be supported.
I think you have to do each one separately.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, the first would be Casey Haney to the Downtown Development Authority to fill an unexpired term expiring February 13th, 2029, and she is a resident. So again, we have parameters that if you're part of the DDA, this would be certainly one of those.
Support.
All right. Any discussion about Casey?
She's really nice.
She is great. I met with her. She's phenomenal. All right, we have a motion with support to appoint Casey Haney to the Downtown Development Authority. Could I please, well, actually, we're just going to do a vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. The next would be to approve the appointment of Joe Mancini to the Downtown Development Authority to fill an unexpired term expiring February 13th, 2027.
Support. Am I allowed to?
There's no
You have to
financial.
N-
Yeah, there's,
All right.
Being that he's my family member?
yeah, there's no there's no financial, so.
Nobody.
Any discussion? All right. Well, it is certainly with my pleasure. It would be my pleasure to appoint
About time.
Joe Mancini. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Also like to approve the appointment of Sherry DeGraff to the Downtown Development Authority to fill an unexpired term expiring February 13th, 2027.
Support.
Just for explanation, Sherry DeGraff served as the village president. She certainly is a pillar of the community and has a heart to serve. So I would like to appoint her to an open position expiring February 13th, 2027. All those, do I have a motion with support?
Support.
Already? Okay, everybody's supporting. All right, great. All those in favor?
No,
No, you-
discussion.
Oh, would you like to have a
Oh.
discussion?
Yes, I would like to have a discussion. We had a meeting in this room where we talked about our priorities. Craig brought it up when we were talking about TAPRC. I have concerns when we have a DDA appointment who was opposed to the Mid-Villa project, is opposed to all of this stuff. Why are you appointing someone who is directly opposed to development in our area to our Downtown Development Authority? That is insulting to me and to everyone here. When we all sat here and agreed that this is what we want. We want to grow this community, and you want to appoint someone who is antithetical to that.
Well, first and foremost, I don't vote or appoint people that are in alignment with what my opinions are, or for the matter, the opinions of this board. I think that having opposing views for whatever those particular reasons are is healthy, and certainly isn't an insult to what we're trying to accomplish, but rather it allows for us to dive deeper into topics and be more thorough in our discussions. And I think it would be impossible for us to just simply bring a body of people together that all agree on everything all the time. I think it's simply healthy to have opposing views, and I am certainly not opposed to that, and relish it. Actually, I think it's important that everybody has an opinion that has a variety. That's the beauty of what we do, is to be able to listen to opposing views and then make decisions based on them. She's one of 7 people on that board, and certainly she may oppose things that are presented to her. But I think that that's certainly her will. And if she represents a body of people in this community that it's certainly not a secret that not everybody agreed to all of the development projects that we've had here. I think she's just one of the voices that of many that certainly don't share our view on everything. So, but I appreciate that.
And I will say, she's not opposed to development. I mean, everyone has their opinions on different things, but, she's she's very vocal about the library and our green spaces and beautification and improvements to our downtown area. So she's been very vocal on those things. To Kevin's point, like I said, he said, you can't have the same opinion across the board, and you can't appoint people based on solidarity and opinion. But she is very active in those things. So.
I would ask, because the DDA is a principal agent relationship with us, the board, and so they are a direct representation of our power, and they gain their power to spend taxpayer money through us. So they are directly related to us, and they are representative of us. So of this board, who thinks that the Middleville project was a bad idea? Anyone? And so we're going to say, we think it's a good idea. to say, this is what we believe in. We're gonna put someone that doesn't believe in that kind of development.
I think that that's one topic out of many, though. I appreciate that perspective, and I think that you're certainly on point for bringing it up. But I also think that, again, where she has opposition, she certainly agrees in other areas. I don't fully understand, and we're not a one decision board here. I would anticipate and I would encourage all of us to have opposing views at some point and in things that we're passionate about. I think that the Mid-Villa project was something that this board was certainly passionate about. It was not something that the previous board was passionate about. And we certainly had some islands in that board that spoke in agreement to it and many that spoke against it. So, and those are people that are, again, I'm going to use the term pillars of this community that have been here long before we showed up and have helped build this community to what it is. So opposing views are encouraged. I think it's healthy. And I don't think that Sherry's going to bring she's not going to bring some sort of wave of discontent to what we're trying to accomplish here. I think she's just going to have a healthy perspective that might oppose ours, and that's okay. But this is why we have the process that we have, and this is why we vote. So it's certainly well within each of you and your ability to vote. You certainly can agree or disagree, but the appointment is made, and we'll certainly make a vote on it. We don't all have to agree on it.
Yeah.
Question on the motion.
Sure.
Let's vote.
He's moving it forward.
Question on the-
Oh,
Well, thank you for that point of order, Mr. Hamilton.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll just do a vote for Sherry DeGraff to the Downtown Development Authority to fill an unexpired term expiring February 13th, 2027. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. The last one here is Eric Schaefer. And he is appointed as a representative of the township, but I don't necessarily think that requirement is needed. But he's certainly been a good contributor of the board and has reapplied to fill a term expiring February 13th, 2029.
So for purposes of the DDA, he serves as a business.
As a business interest, that's correct.
The township falls within the
District.
the Downtown Development Authority District.
Correct. So with that, Mr. Schaefer's application, I am hereby appointing him to fill a term expiring February 13th, 2029. Any discussion?
you know,
Or-
there's no second. You got that? Okay. Very good.
Any discussion about Mr. Schaefer? Okay.
Just a discussion in this board, so there's 7 members?
9.
There's 9, but
Okay.
there's been a number of open or vacant
And-
seats.
And their decisions they make, they bring to us, right?
Not necessarily.
I'm
So
Not necessarily.
their budget has to be approved by the village council. And their development plan and any amendments to their development plan and tax increment financing plan have to be approved by the village council. But other than that, and the director.
Right. Has to be
And his subsequent employee.
ratified by the.
Right. So, but most decisions by the DDA board are solely made by the DDA board without review and approval by the council.
So they can spend money that's been approved by.
In the budget.
And so the decisions they make within themselves has to be unanimous or?
No.
Just a majority.
Majority quorum.
But also have representation of this council on that board as well. So it's nothing is happening without awareness.
And they can only spend money in accordance with their development plan and the DDA statute.
Any other questions or discussion that we? All right. All those in favor of Mr. Schaefer? All those opposed? All right, motion carries.
So just a footnote, this leaves one vacant
Yes.
position, and the count, is, as far as I'm counting, 5 business interest, 3 non-business interest. So you sort of in alignment with where the statute needs to be, so you have to have a majority of business interest on.
Right. Excellent. Well, it looks like we're doing our job. Thanks, Craig.
Yes.
Thank you. Congrats, Mr. Mancini. He's not listening, but anyway.
Just talking to the audience.
I also think, also in our packet, there's board member expectations. I think that there have been a lot of discussions with regard to how this process has unfolded. I think we were definitely above the board on that, so. All right, with that, we're going on to OPEB actuarial valuation.
So this is an item that comes up every year for renewal. Watkins Ross has analyzed our OPEB, which specifically this is for our retiree healthcare obligations that we have for 7 retirees. This benefit ended. No current employees are ever going to be eligible for this benefit because it ended with employees that were hired prior to 2015. We pay out, as you see in checks, and we're working with those retirees. As a side note, I'm working with them and working with MERS and trying to come up with a plan to continue that benefit for them. I thought I had a silver bullet, if you recall, last year with the MERS plan, but there's been a little bit of pushback from some old retired DPW workers. I can't imagine you could think that would happen, but that's kind of where we're at. So anyhow, working through that, and I'll note that on my subsequent subsequent meetings. So
Is this one of those things that we would need bids for technically?
technically, we could go out for bid. I've got a plan working with our accountant, Peter Vrede, whatever his name is, Bredeveld. No, that's wrong. Hefner, thank you.
How can you forget Hefner?
Yeah, so I've been working with him, or he just met with Glormar yesterday, actually, and we've got an idea of how to handle this moving forward, 26 and beyond. So I would say this may be a 1-year obligation. We'll come up with maybe something better moving forward, so.
So what does this do?
So what they do is they analyze what our total obligation should be. So they, you never know. They try to figure out how long somebody's going to live and how many dollars we're going to pay that person over the course of their life, and then how much we should have in the bank to cover that benefit. When in reality, we cover it paycheck to paycheck, so to speak, without, with a lack of better, we have the funds available that we just pay out monthly or quarterly as determined by the benefit.
So what are we paying for?
We're paying for, it's a requirement, by law, we have to show what the numbers are, so we can have those in our audit and have that accounted for. So we're paying to show.
This is what we're going to do to cover the whole.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the actuarial evaluation, other post-employment benefits, OPEB, of $4,300 from fiscal year 2025 auditing budget and $1,400 from the fiscal year 2025 auditing budget.
Support.
We have a motion with support. Any further discussion on this? All right, that is a roll call. Rhonda?
Sure is. Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton.
Aye.
John Osterban,
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Aye. Motion passes. I think for future reference, I think we are sensitive to bidding.
Yep.
It isn't necessarily, I mean, they've worked with us for a lot of years, so there's some history there. They know our systems. It would be like training a new person. So sometimes it makes good sense to just stick with what we have. But I do agree that when the opportunity arises, that we look for other
Yep.
for other options as well.
Yep,
Even if
absolutely.
it's just to fact check and make sure that they're doing it
Yeah.
down the middle.
Absolutely.
Mr. Stolzenberg, let's talk about the Economic Development Coordinator position, please.
Okay, Community Development Coordinator, previously in the previous budget had asked you to approve a part-time position for that. After a little bit further review and discussions with Doug and the workload that we're planning on putting on that person, I think it makes sense to go out to expand it to a full-time role. Not only is that person going to have a lot of additional duties, a lot of administrative assistant duties that we previously were taking on by Kim, our deputy clerk and administrative assistant, who I am moving more and more over to assist Alec up in the DPW. So she's going to be less available to Doug for that. And so that'd be primary role for that. And also the number of projects that we have coming up, the master plan update, expansion of the DDA, working with the Michigan Main Streets, with the DDA, all those things are going to be, needed to have a more of a full-time staff on that. And with that, we highlighted some objectives, first and second year objectives that we would like that person to attain. Hopefully that will bring in additional grant dollars and additional funds that we can pay for improvements and pay for that position moving forward also.
Question. Is the DDA,
At this point, no, the DDA is supporting the previous load of what Gretchen was going to be receiving for this year. So I've split that, as you've seen in the budget. So for year one, the additional dollars will be coming out of the general fund.
Now, you said something in this memo here that there is a crossing guard who retired at the end of the year, so congratulations to her. But how much of a balance is left out of the general fund once that allocation of that crossing guards funds is allocated?
It'd be that
this?
29,500 that
So
I
that's the
estimate.
balance due
Yeah,
after?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. So that would be wages and benefits added. So obviously, full-time, there are additional benefits that you don't have with a part-time position. So Joanne earned approximately $15,000 a year, who was the previous crossing guard. So the total would be more like 45,000 if we didn't have the 15,000 on there.
So this person's package with benefits and salary would be 45K,
It would,
roundabout.
well, it'd be roughly 70,000 total
With
With-
benefits and salary.
benefits and salary. It's about just shy of like 48,000 annually for wages, and then benefits is about 30% on top of that. So.
And this position, again, just to reiterate it, is a requirement for our Michigan Main Street program. So it's, I think we're, again, coalescing around that initiative. pretty heavily.
Right, so with the engaged level that we are with Michigan Main Streets right now, it's okay to have Doug as kind of a hybrid, being planning director and Main Street director, hybrid, part-time Main Street director. But if we move into higher levels of Michigan Main Streets, we need to have somebody full-time at that point anyhow, so that this person could qualify as that.
So this is my confusion. So if we're ending up having to do a full-time position for this person, why did we even do the switch in the first place? Why couldn't we just keep a director position and keep it the way it was?
Well, I honestly, I didn't look at, after we dug into it, there was a lot more, things that came up after that. So a lot more discovery with the obligations of Michigan Main Streets. We didn't know 100% everything we needed to do with that until Doug was working with them on that, and learned a lot more after that. And we're still learning all the obligations that we're going to have moving forward with.
But
I think also, and I'm going to step in and just respond. The position was to bridge. The position was to
I
bridge.
get that.
So what the part-time role was initially as part of the Main Street initiative requirement. That role has expanded to include additional services. Doug really did an extraordinary job of breaking down all of the responsibilities in the packet. There was a lot of really targeted initiatives with metrics attached to it that, quite frankly, I encouraged him to dive into. It does justify in many ways how this continues to bridge between our economic development arm and village initiative for expanding tax rolls. So I think it'll be certainly a small investment given what I think the tax roll increase will be for new businesses.
Previously though, with our director, were we meeting the Main Street and stuff like that? Whatever the requirements were to meet Main Street previously?
We were not.
We were
We
not.
were not.
No, we were
Okay.
not. Absolutely not.
I just want to clarify that.
And previously, we still had the crossing guard on the books.
Right,
And
right,
so that was a change, that
Okay.
assisted me in, freeing up some funds that, thought would be beneficial to do that, so.
May I
Mr.
ask, sorry, may I ask, out of the total between so two questions. What is the DDA in totality? I forget the number. What are they providing?
What are they receiving as far as tax dollars is
No,
concerned?
what are they providing towards these roles? So what's is it 55,000?
No,
or is
it's like 75,000. So it'd be the total package of what Gretchen was previously going to receive in 2025.
Okay. And then for both roles, we're putting up how much on our end for both roles?
So it'd be the 29 here plus, I don't have that exact number in
Okay.
front of me, but. Yep.
So maybe roundabouts $160,000 for both roles, benefits and wages. If I count.
For
The add-on for Doug and then this. Basically.
Right. But you're talking just for general fund, or you're talking?
No, I'm talking just in general
Total.
for the expense of these two roles.
So it'd be, let's say, 130 and set, so 200,000 total, roughly.
For both.
Yes.
How many people have actually taken the Michigan Main Street course? Therein you will find that funding this kind of thing to get to that next box that we're not in takes public funds and entrepreneurial donations from benefactors. I
A
don't
lot of
hear any,
volunteers.
excuse me,
And a lot of volunteers.
and a lot of volunteers. I don't hear any benefactors in this equation of $200,000. I see us funding the whole thing. And we're not even in the box yet. We haven't experienced what Doug can do with what we have. And I'm a little leery of jumping on this wagon until we know how we're gonna tack our way through it. That's my position. And I would hope everybody would take that course and see what it's involved. You don't have to go all the way to a premier position in the box. If you do, it's gonna cost you more than $200,000. And don't forget, we got just a little downtown you can drive through here in 90 seconds. I'm quite thank you for smiling.
I can't, I see Mark over there's giggling a little bit.
But, you know, I just, man, we're worrying about cleaning somebody's sidewalk off, but we're gonna spend $200,000 for a box in the chart. Excuse me. I will not support it. But that don't mean it won't pass, but I'm not gonna gripe about it if it doesn't.
I'd like to see what the DDA says about it, but also I'd like to see us try something first, and if we need to improve, go from there.
Yeah.
But that's my position.
The DDA did meet last week and they were in support of it, so just here.
Of Doug's position.
No, of this also,
Of the expansion.
Oh,
yes.
okay. I thought I recalled that they wanted to
No.
wait.
And it would be my plan to, at 2026 and beyond, work with them to take a bigger bite of the apple. So, let's pay for more of that position and, moving forward. And there's hopefully very soon to be receiving a lot more tax dollars also. And I'm gonna,
So to
lean on them quite a
clarify,
bit. Yeah.
we have to have this in order to do the Michigan Main Street.
We have to have a full-time in order to get,
So Doug can't be that full-time.
well, no, because Doug is
Right. Oh,
Planning.
right.
planning. So if we were to ladder up in the Michigan Main Streets, right now, it's fine the way it is.
Okay.
If we just
How
have
much- how
Doug
much
and a part-time
longer?
person.
How much longer do we don't know.
I think the way that Mr. Powers is attacking this, I think it won't be very long before we're there.
Right.
And, you've got new additions to the DDA now, which, I think hopefully you'll have a full board for that, moving forward. So I think, he's very engaged and really working to make it happen very fast.
I guess I guess as a single question is, what would you like to feel better about this? I think there's a great job description in there. Doug is splitting his planning and zoning and the DDA. We were giving him part-time for the Main Street initiative. I think this does balance the equation to some degree to allow Doug to fully develop his strategy, and having somebody that's riding sidecar with him will help execution. But at the same time, if this proposal is missing something, then I'm certainly open to shelving it until next time, if you want to dive into it a little bit more. But I find that there's a lot of information in this packet that outlines exactly what those initiatives are. This is not money for nothing. There's certainly outcomes that we need in order to move forward economically in this as a community. And I think Doug did a really great job of outlining what those initiatives were, the strategy that he's outlining in the packet with regard to leveraging this particular position. There's a lot of clarity there. So either maybe we go back, we review it, and continue the discussion for next time to do that. But I also think that Doug is, as you know, he throws this stuff in front of him because he has a strategy and he wants to execute on it. And I don't want this board or myself to step in the way of that because he's incredibly productive when given the opportunity.
We would like, if possible, to advertise and, put this out for to hire somebody as soon as possible. This would actually, with the reduction of the crossing guard, reduce our full-time equivalents by one half position too, so. So the full-time equivalents would actually be less than what you currently have on the budget. The dollars would be more, yes, but the full-time equivalents would
That
be
would have
less.
been awesome.
Yeah, I know.
That would have been really awesome. All right, I'm gonna table this until next time because I don't think we're gonna get it. I think the sentiment here is that I think we need to read up on this, and I would like to have unanimous support for this since we're adding a significant amount of money to our budget.
On the sludge.
On to sludge.
So no action. Do you want me to bring it back next meeting or?
Yes, please bring it back next week.
Okay.
Yep.
With the caveat that people who haven't taken the course get into it, so you'll understand where we're headed. Because we're only at the number one box right now. There's 4 boxes to get into. Okay, thank you.
So sludge hauling, fun business. I got George here to answer any further questions they may have. He's been
Thanks for
patiently
staying
waiting.
here till the middle of the night.
Essentially, there is biosolids sludge haul that we produce as part of our wastewater treatment plant. If any of you have been up there, it's the big tank that's sticking out of the ground that is full of material that we cannot break down and we have to get rid of.
I want to rephrase that.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah,
George.
head
I'll
on
let you
up,
take
George.
it. You've been waiting.
We hardly get to
patiently.
see you this is
The only
crazy.
thing I'll add before I let him take over is we did get 2 quotes. We solicited for 3 bids, very select process. There's only a few contractors in the entire state that actually do this, so it's very limited on the bid.
A lot of ins and outs to it, and it's only getting more and more regulated, what with PFAS and all this other type of stuff. So you're saying it's a byproduct of things we can't process. I want to rephrase that a little bit. It's the general wastewater treatment process is taking the bugs that are naturally present in your gut that get sent to the plant along with the other waste. And then all we do is give them air to breathe and room to grow. All right, so then those bacteria and microorganisms process all the waste. And then by the time what you see in the tanks outside with the that are under aeration, all that is microorganisms that ate the waste. So there's no more waste. Now all we're doing is taking the microorganisms, storing them, letting them turn on each other because they're still hungry. So they turn on each other, they eat each other, and that condenses. We take off some of the top water. After we let it settle, clear water goes back to the headworks of the plant, gets retreated and everything like that. And that meanwhile, we're always adding a little bit more, but we're always taking a little, condensing it more too. But eventually, we end up with enough that we have to empty the tank. So that's where we're at. Broad rule of thumb is for every 1,000,000 gallons a day that you do, you'll get 1,000,000 gallons of sludge in a year, or biosolids. So that's the stuff that we're going to take. It's full of nutrients. It's all just natural, organisms that that you and I create. And we're simply taking those and putting them on closely managed fields that are used for crops for animals and things like that.
You know what's interesting?
Circle of life.
Right, is, I remember going on a tour with Alec and he explained this to me, so when I read this, I knew exactly what you were
Good.
talking about.
what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not only was she good enough to attend and take the tour, she retained it.
Yeah, I
This is
did.
amazing.
I'm a sponge.
All right, so we have, the recommendation is for us to review and consider the approval of the bid from Biotech Agronomics, Inc., and it's not to exceed $68,264. Is this an ongoing agreement, or is this just one
This
time?
is a one-time, but I'd like to see how they do. I've used, Don Popham as the bidding agent on this. I've used that group, many times in the past. You know, like I said, there's not a lot of players in this market. He's one of the, been there, done that guys. He's been doing this, longer than I've been in the field, so.
I will make the motion to approve the Biotech Agronomics Inc. bid to not exceed 69,000 just for cushion.
Or
All right, motion with support. Any discussion? Any more discussion? It's fascinating.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
just wonder sometimes is, being new to this and going with Alex too, is how do we communicate this kind of stuff to the normal residents? They're not here, but, because I had no idea there was that this amount of expense. I could grumble about, maybe not be happy about my water sewer bill, okay? But looking at this kind of stuff, that's, I think, what we need to communicate somehow. If that's new, somehow the people that, well, just because it's gone from your house, there's an expense to it. And we're handling all of that.
Communicate our expenses as much as possible.
Yeah. And I
The
don't know
field is
whether,
only getting more and more complex. There's more and more regulations all the time. And the level of training, certifications, and continuing education that we are required to have now is, it's expensive. So,
And I also want to just say, finding you is a complicated task. It was a complicated task to find somebody like you with your qualifications to come to the village. So that is also,
that's, there's not a lot, if you were a surface water treatment, drinking water treatment plant, though, that's an F1 or F license, for drinking water. Those people that's the golden ticket. They've got it made, right? Next is, like, I've got the D, 1S2, I've got the others, the distribution and the limited treatment ones for groundwater systems like ours. So I've got high licenses in those. And then the wastewater licenses. But I was a contractor, so I never knew quite what I was gonna do next, keep your options open, So, mine is more rare, my combination, but it's, the smart ones out there, and there's a lot of them, do that, But, it's to the point now where, like I said, it's getting difficult to find people that have the right licenses. And the training is the testing to pass that is, to make you, like the B license, that I have, that, when I took it 30 years ago, that's now the C license test.
so it's getting tougher.
It made everything more tough.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in and explaining this to us, and we certainly appreciate your time, and thanks for staying so late, because this is a late one. Hearing a motion with support, any further discussion, or are we all set with that? All right, looks like we're gonna need a roll call.
Ann Williams.
Aye.
Robert Bishop.
aye.
Tracy Stilgon. Richard Hamilton.
Aye.
John Osterban.
I,
Mackenzie Peters.
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you,
Thank you very
George.
much.
Thanks, Alec.
All right, well, with that, in your packet, you have boards and commissions, draft minutes from the planning commission, the DDA, TAPRC, housing commission, and for October and November. I didn't really see anything for informational items and correspondence. Ron, did you have anything else you'd like to add for this late evening?
I'd like to make motion to adjourn.
I have one item.
I have to say public comment.
Mr. President, I have one item.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
there was a comment made on total millages for residents. So for homestead, if you claim homestead, it's 46 mills total mills in the village. If it's with non-homestead, it's 64 total mills, which the bulk of, so for the village itself, for village services is 12 and a half mills, as you know. There are a lot of extra voted millages in the village and in Middleville School District in general, because we have, really good schools, and the people in the area like to support our schools. So if you do break down your tax bill, you'll notice there are a lot of extra voted millages on that tax bill.
For sure.
Yeah, can I add to can I piggyback off yours?
How about we piggyback into last council
Okay.
comments, and you can start.
Okay. An interesting part of that is when you can correct me if I'm wrong, our tax millage is just operational, and in that operational, it covers everything. So versus you look at what township just sent out, and again, not everything that they build is for township, but they separate out, EMS because it's a ballot millage, and you've got township operations, which can be construed as fairly small, but within our 12 mil, we're running our police contract, we're running our DPW department, we're running our office operations, everything in that little conglomerate. So it might be shocking to say, well, why are we running 12 mil and the township only has 0.8 mil? Well, we're combining everything that is a service in the community.
Ready to serve services.
Yes, and then on that note, I'll jump into making sure, I'd like to see more emphasis on providing bids. I do believe in the continuity of accounts and account management, but also I want to make sure we stay compliant and we can avoid the angry mobs that say, you need bids. So I'd like to see that more in 2025. And then with that, I'm excited. This meeting was very long, but very productive. So thank you for staff for getting everything together, and Kevin with your leadership. I think we're going in a really positive direction. And on that note,
I was just going to say, and just to be clear, we do, for new items, we do bring bids for those things. We do bring multiple bids per the rules and procedure, but for reoccurring things, we don't always. But I will work to bring more bids for reoccurring items also.
thank you. And thank you, Mark, for all your advice tonight.
Pleasure.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yes. Well, there was a comment made, how do people find out what we're doing? Well, you can get on YouTube, see what's going on here. You can go to Facebook. You can call the office. We can engage a rep. I would like a look into something different than rep. We have an excellent school system up here that has a multimedia program. X number of years ago, my grandson, who is now 34, worked with Jacob Bauer, developed a multimedia program for Meyer. They were awarded a top award for that multimedia program. I would like to see us jump out of the box a little bit here and go up and talk to the school. I think, I'm not talking against what we need, because we need to break this thing down. This is what we do in operations. This is what we do in capital improvement. This is what we do daily in the police department, blah, blah, blah. You can organize this thing in a decision tree till you're blue in the face. It takes a lot of input, whether you got rep doing it or student participation using their skills over this isn't something we need like tomorrow. It's something we could develop and maintain on a regular basis with the teacher and his student, senior student clients with great experience. It would be, if it's possible to do, it'd be a great thing through the community. I remember when Dylan and Jacob did that project, it was a 2-page article about the great thing they did for Meyer, that the school did. So I'd like to see us go up and talk to somebody instead of spending some thousands of dollars for out of the state of California to do what we really want done. It's not a matter of who does it, it's what we want done, how we can get it done. And so that's my input on that. I really like our lawyer reminding us. Thanks, Mark.
I like that first part of your comment.
Yeah, right.
I really like the
First one
lawyer.
ever.
Yeah.
There is I love my lawyer day.
Let me see, let's see, what do
We should probably
I love
have
Micah Myers,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah, should probably have this.
But I would just like you guys to think about that. I'd like village manager to explore that. I wouldn't mind being involved in it in terms of how I think it ought to be structured. But I don't want to get into operations. That's not my job. Not really. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Bishop?
I'm good.
Can I add something? Or no?
Not quite yet. Mr. Osterbon?
Very informative tonight. I got a lot to think about, so I guess I'm
It was a good meeting.
thankful to all everybody that does everything, so.
Ms. Williams?
I have nothing. I'm about to fall asleep and I have to go to bed.
Oh, goodness. Usually, Mr. Hamilton has to go eat. I'm
In the
good.
bathroom.
Yeah, right. Good meeting. And again, I'm just going to encourage everybody, we don't have to agree to agree. We don't have to agree to agree or agree to, we do have to agree many times to disagree. And I find that to be healthy. And I'm not offended by people that have disagreements or have opposing views. So I think that's a really good thing. I appreciate Mr. Bishop's input tonight. I think it's healthy to have that, and I love his passion. So it's newfound, and I'm excited about it. I like that. The rest of this is I'm just going to conclude by saying it's a great board. I'm so excited, and I continue to be excited. I'm always appreciative of everything that you guys bring to the table. And thank you, staff, for staying here until the middle of the friggin' night. It's so late. So thank you for having the patience to do that. What's that? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I have nothing else. And with that, I think a motion is in order.
I move to adjourn.
Support.
All right. And with that, meeting adjourned.
No, we gotta say aye.
I,
We gotta vote.
I want to know what.
We agree.
You vote aye.
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Volunteering, our site to do something.